Welcome to the 20th episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense Anime Podcast. Today, we're jumping into the summer 2017 season, and we'll be giving our first impressions and initial recommendations for the shows we've been checking out. Eventually, we'll be trying to narrow these down to a top 10 that we'll follow and review throughout the season. This episode is going to be the first part of two, since there's so many shows to cover. And we'll be covering shows that air from Sunday till Wednesday. My name is Bcom, and a hooker just overdosed in my apartment. Her body will probably just decompose in my bathroom anyway. Also with me is Leo.
Yo, what is up? Oh man, there's just... The beginning of every season is just a nightmare because there's so much to watch because you don't know what's bad yet.
Wait, we're not going to talk about how I need to dispose of this body in my bathroom?
I thought this was pretty hush-hush.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, you did finally clean it, but if it was still dirty, it'd probably just decompose super quick.
This is true, yeah. Yeah, like you said, there are so many anime this summer, which, like, historically is not the case. Like, historically, there used to be, like, 3 anime that aired in summer. Now there's, like, 50, and it's kind of crazy.
Yep, and there's definitely some good ones in here, and definitely some, like, really bad ones, but these shows we're doing right now won't be too in-depth, since there's so much. They'll be just at the most giving you a general idea of what these shows are, and hopefully enough information that if you haven't watched them, you'll want to pick them up. But
yes, if I was going to say, if we go into great detail on a show, we either really like it or really hate it.
And we have one of each.
At least one of each. So yeah, let's get this show on the road.
Cool.
So let's start with Sundays. And the first show on the chopping block is Knights and Magic, which is airing on Crunchyroll.
Oh, you're not going to stop right there with your first problem with this show?
Oh, I'm stopping right now. So Knights has a fucking apostrophe in it for no apparent reason. Like, it was like a possessive Knights, like the Knights Magic or something. But instead it's called Knights apostrophe S and Magic, which makes literally no sense. And they, like, Japanese studios literally just need to hire like one English speaker, just one English speaker, like on a temp job, just say like, hey, we're thinking about this for the title. Can you just like check if this grammatically makes sense? And like, that's all they need to do. Just hire somebody for like literally half an hour to just say like, nope, this doesn't make sense. I'm sure
it wouldn't take much to draw up a temporary contract and they're like, hey, we'll give you 1,000 yen just to look at this title.
I would do it.
Yeah, like, it'd be the easiest,
almost for free,
1,000 yen you've ever made.
Yeah. All right. So the source of this is a light novel. The studio making it is 8-Bit, who are kind of known for not making great shows. They've made shows like Infinite Stratos, Rewrite, Comet Lucifer. The director is Yusuke Yamamoto, who is actually a really good director. He's known for directing shows like Welcome to the NHK. He directed Shonen Maid a couple seasons ago, which was not bad. Bcom HK, which is Yamada's first time, and Aquarian Evol are like under his belt. So he knows what he's doing. So yeah, episode 1, Robots and Fantasy.
Oh yeah.
All right. So basically the whole plot of this show is, guess what? There's a teenager who got sent to another world.
Well, no, he was like a...
Yes.
He was like a working man. He was like...
Exactly. It's a little bit different this time. Yeah. He was like a computer programmer,
die and go to another world.
Yes. He was like a computer programmer, was working at a job, and he gets hit by a car, of course, and dies, and is transported to a fantasy world. And then there's a little bit of a twist. He's reborn in that world. He doesn't have the same body. He's instead like reincarnated as an elementary school aged boy named Ernesti Echevalier. I assume that's like how you pronounce it. That's like the French pronunciation. So that means like knight, basically. So yeah, he's a boy, but he also looks very girly. Like, he's very cutesy looking. Also, who is his voice actor, Leo? I think you made a note about that.
It's a female voice actress. It's the same voice actress as Emilia from ReZero and Megumi from Konosuba. And I lost who the voice actress's name, but this is a female voice actress that does like, this is going to mess with people, I feel like, now that they know this knowledge.
Yeah, if you were a little bit confused about like whether Ernesti was a he or a her at first, like there's very good reason for that confusion.
Yep.
So don't worry about it. So basically, yeah, he was a genius computer programmer in his previous life, and he somehow retains that knowledge even though he's been reincarnated as like a kid. And he's able to use his knowledge of computer programming and apply it to this fantasy world where they have these mechs, basically these like mech robots called Silhouette Knights. And the pilots of those robots are called Night Runners. So his whole goal is to become a Night Runner and like pilot these mechs because he thinks they're like super cool. And he's going to use his like computer programming knowledge to apply it to like the sort of magic academy that he's going to in this world.
Oh yeah, he's a super mecha otaku, so that's why he's fascinated with him.
Exactly. And so like one of the ways he applies his like super abilities is most of the people in this world use like a magic rod to like, you know, use their magic. He's like, I have an idea. I'm going to just design this gun that shoots magic instead. So yeah, like he's taking his knowledge from like the other world and using it in this world in a kind of like overpowered way a little bit. And he has like he meets like a couple friends, like a brother and a sister named like Arkid and Adeltrude, who like, I think they're kids of a nobleman.
Yeah,
but their mother was not they're bastard children of like a nobleman, and so they have a stepsister also named Stefania, who is a noble because she's not a bastard. And it's funny, like the girl, I think Adeltrude and Stefania, like both like clearly just like flirt with Ernesti at every chance. Like especially Adeltrude feels like very possessive of him. Like she's always like hugging him and like rubbing her face on his face.
She's like, he's like, my cute little girl boy.
Exactly. And then like what's her name? Stefania, like she'll like anytime she like tries to get like slightly close to Ernesti, Adeltrude gets like super pissed off. But it happens all the time. So but it's funny because like, so he comes to this world and he instantly has like two girls. Well, not instantly, but almost instantly has like two girls like fawning over him all the time. Besides that, like, there's not like much plot to the first couple episodes. Just like he does cool stuff in mechs. Like he's too small, first of all, to like ride in the mech cockpits.
Yeah, he
like,
can't reach the pedals and like the arm things or whatever they are.
So he either wants to grow faster or he just needs to design his own mech.
Which I think is what he's going to
do.
He met like a dwarf guy who's a blacksmith, so...
Yeah, and I think he wants to work with that guy and design like a mech that will work for him, even though he's like way too young. He's not supposed to be using them. But like there's this moment in the second episode where he like takes over a mech from a guy who's running away from a battle against a big like CGI
I really like
monster.
the battle stuff.
Yeah, the battle stuff's not bad, actually. Like, the mechs look good. Like, there's pretty cool combat. Like, so, like, yeah, he's sitting in the cockpit. And he's like, oh, crap, I can't reach the pedals. And I can't, like, there's, like, it's funny because, like, the mech is designed so you have to, like, pull these, like, huge, like, cylinders out of these tubes to, like, move the arms. And I'm like, really? Who would design a mech that way? It seems like way too much work for the pilot to be doing, but hey, that's how it works.
Yeah,
so,
and also the mechs, it's kind of just during some conversation, these mechs designs haven't changed for like hundreds of years.
Yes, yeah, they were designed way long ago, and like that's why people are like, hey, you can't just build a new mech. Like the mechs we have are like designed hundreds of years ago. So that's interesting.
Yeah, like it's like they don't have the knowledge anymore, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like they've lost that knowledge. Like it was like Roman knowledge or something, and like in our world, and they lost it to time, and they don't know how to do it anymore. But yeah, so he's in the cockpit and he like takes his guns that he's designed and like he rips the cylinders out of the things and then wraps like the wires around his guns, and then that way he can actually like reach the
I didn't understand how that made him able to pilot the mech.
Me neither. It was kind of dumb, but whatever. It kind of worked out and somehow. Oh, there was also this moment in that second episode where like he's like, let me show what a programmer can do, and he like literally enters like the Matrix. He's like floating in this like green ball of like code, and it's really stupid looking, but I kind of liked it. And yeah, like overall, I was just sort of starting to notice how this show is kind of similar to Clockwork Planet, except not like as lewd as Clockwork Planet.
I don't think it's as bad either.
No, it's not as bad either. It's like better animated and like the character's a little bit more fun. But he's like constantly fawned over by girls, and he's obsessed with one thing, which is robots. Whereas like Clockwork Planet, well, he was kind of obsessed with like automatons in Clockwork Planet. Like it's similar type of thing. And like he has an ability that's really super powered in this world, which is like his like genius computer programming knowledge is super powered. So
well, this is what it does, because I've read another manga which I'll describe in a second. But basically, he has all this knowledge of mechas from another world. So like he sees more possibilities and things they could possibly do. Otherwise, the people in this world, they don't see that. Like there's that one throwaway line where they're like, "Oh, these were designed 100 years ago. We've never changed them and whatnot." Well, I'm also reading a comparison. There's a manga I read. I forget the name, but it's almost the exact same premise. The guy dies. He's reborn in another world as a baby and grows up. But this world has magic, and basically his knowledge of like the possibilities of magic gives him like this huge advantage. And he's and he obviously learns it super quick and all kinds of crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, that's kind of where they're going with it. But which I'm fine with.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't have any more thoughts about Knights of Magic. I think it's like fine. Like I don't think it's like amazing so far.
Yeah,
I think it's okay.
If you want fantasy and mecha, that's definitely what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as long as they keep doing more fighting, I'll keep watching it because that's pretty entertaining stuff. But we can move on to the next one. This pic I put on here for the voice actress is cracking me up, dude.
All right.
Oh, Facebook.
Do you want to introduce the next show?
Yep, I got this one. Centaur no Nayami. Crunchyroll, 10:30 a.m. Sundays still. English title: A Centaur's Life. The source is a manga. Studio is Hailliners Animation League. They've done... I don't know any of these. Hitori no Shita, Cheating Craft, and To Be Hero.
They were all pretty bad shows. Some people liked To Be Hero as kind of like a dark comedy. The other shows, I didn't hear many people liking them. Hitori no Shita was like it's right in the name. It's shit. It's a shit show.
The director is Naoyuki Kono, and really there was nothing to note apparently. But yeah. Episode 1, it's called When All Is Said and Done, Everyone Loves Kisses. / Did you know that a marathon is a microcosm of life?
Yeah, long titles.
Jesus.
There's like 2 parts to every episode, so there's like a title for the first half and the title for the second half.
So basically when you watch the show, you're just wondering the whole time how she gets those pants on. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there's like this scene in the first episode. So the main character is this pretty looking centaur, right?
Oh, and she's adorable, yes. Hime, that's your name.
Yeah, Hime, or Himeno is her full name, but Hime because she's like a princess, basically. Not like in the show, but like her father thinks of her as a princess, and like she's been cast in all of her school plays since she was little as a princess.
It's pretty funny.
But yeah, there's this one scene like in the show in the first episode where somebody like throws her like a change of clothes for like wardrobe, and she just like throws them on. They do like a scene transition, and it's like, yeah, no, that would take like 15 minutes for her to get those on.
And like when she wears pants, it goes over her back half and then the front half, and you're like, there has to be like a zipper down the back or something to get those on.
Well, there's also that joke. I know we're like straying around a lot, but like there's this joke in like some point in like the first or second, I think it's the first episode, where they're like, wait, can you even wipe your own butt? And she's like, yeah, I can turn all the way around and wipe.
Yeah, it's why she runs every morning to keep in shape, because if like centaurs get overweight, they can't wipe their own butts.
Yeah, she's like really concerned about her weight. Also, it's like a recurring gag in the show is that she's very worried about it.
But it makes sense. She's a centaur. She's the largest person in there. But anyways, the first episode, I mean, right off the bat, it's the opening shot is her kissing like the demon girl. So like Yuri stuff, but like one of the guys in the class wrote it in there because he got the prince role, and it's just this funny whole little thing.
It's just like a confusion kind of.
Yeah, but anyways, the class is like putting on a play, and it doesn't specify what the play is. It's just a princess type deal and whatnot.
It might have been Romeo and Juliet, but I forget. I don't remember.
No, because it didn't end like Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
I think it was just they were just loosely basing it off of something like that. Yeah. Oh, you made a little note here of a panty shot within the first 90 seconds.
Yeah, there was a panty shot of Nozomi, who is like the little demon girl, who also looks a little bit like a boy. In a second episode, they actually call her a Shota girl, which was kind of funny. It was kind of weird. It's like she's like a little boyish girl, basically. But yeah, there's a little panty shot when she's kicking that guy who set up Hime in the first scene. Yeah. So it lets you know pretty early on, like, hey, this is going to be fan servicey.
Yeah. Then they even later on they still keep going with like the Yuri stuff when they're making fun of the two, you know, for being embarrassed about kissing her, and it brought up and she blushes and whatnot. But yeah, later on they eventually do perform the play, and they've like been concerned about the scaffolding the whole time, and they make this joke about some other big guy jumping on it, like, it wouldn't break. But it does like end up collapsing under Himeno's weight. And then like her friend who's playing the prince, is it Nozomi? She like goes to fall off, but then I'm just gonna call her Hime because that's what they call her in the show. Like, you know, grabs her and like does some cool jumping and jumps down to the bottom of the stage for like the scaffolding falling down. And then like Nozomi gives her like a kiss on the cheek to thank her for saving her. Just, you know, more Yuri shipping, in the crowd like loses it and stuff. And that was just it was like a part one of a part two episode basically. And then that was more like introducing you to everybody, I feel like, and what we're supposed to be in for. But then like part two is like goes into what that world is. Like they just had to, I don't know, stick it in there. But it's almost dark, like you said. Like, so like in this, it describes the world like humans never came to exist. It's just these humanoid animal people is what populates the world now. And like it's just pure chaos. You know, it's like one group of creatures enslaving another group of creatures, and then like they basically made this own communist country, but it seemed unnecessary and it seems to be working, so go for it. Government, and it basically treats everybody completely equally. Like there's one part where like they're running a quick marathon, and one of the girls gets on the back of she doesn't want to. Hime offers her a ride, but she's like, no, I can't get on the back. That would be viewed as, you know, enslaving you or something like that. So that's kind of neat. And like there's even the government people watching in on the classroom as like she describes them. And everybody's divided into 4 groups. Group 1 is cat folk, goat folk, and fawns. And it took me a minute to figure out who the fawns are, but the fawns are the ones with the unicorn horn, right?
Yeah, I think that would be it.
Have to be, yeah. Group 2 is angel folk and draconids, which are basically the demon people. They got the wings and the tail, and the angel folk get the wings, and their hair has like a little halo thing. It's kind of interesting. 3 is centaurs, and there used to be another group, but they said they died out. I forgot who they said they were.
It was like tiger people.
Oh yeah, tiger werewolves or something like that.
Tiger werewolves, that was it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the 4th group is merfolk. And then like
also there might be more, because like in the second episode they say that Hime's dad is like a gorilla bear.
Yeah. So
there might be more that they didn't talk about. I don't know what group that fits into. So
picture gorilla bear having sex with a centaur.
With a centaur. Yeah.
And then like this is some of the dark stuff where they do show like medieval torture of like scenes, and like they have this like one picture of like a merfolk on her side. She's like in a cellar or something like that. But then there was just that gym episode, and that was kind of cool. And then it just kind of ends suddenly at the end of that episode. But
yeah, it was kind of a little bit abrupt ending, I guess. But yeah, so that introduced like how dark the show's background kind of is, set against like the very lighthearted like Yuri shipping like hijinks of the characters. It's kind of a weird juxtaposition. Apparently the manga gets like really into all that stuff, so I don't know.
Yeah, that it only seems they brushed upon it enough to give us a background, and that's about it. Yeah,
one of my problems with the like even just like the first episode, and I guess a little bit with the second episode, is that they go to like such depths to like are such lengths to build out the backstory for this like world, but then they don't think about how like things would be built differently for this society. Like in the auditorium, just like the chairs, like there's like half of the students have like wings, so the backs of the chairs would be lower to accommodate people with wings, you would think, and stuff like that. Or just like there's in the second episode, like it starts off with Hime's mother having like lunch at a cafe or like a diner or something.
Yeah.
And she's sitting in a booth, and it's like she would have so much trouble backing her like horse legs up into that booth. It's so ridiculous that it would be built that way. It would be built some other way that would be better for horses, you know.
But I'll go ahead and take episode 2 also, because I know you really want to talk about the next one.
Okay.
So episode 2, I'm going to do this in one breath. Beauty is a double-edged sword. Water people living in water and mountain people living in mountains really are just that. Yes, that was the title.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it starts off with that scene where her mother's meeting an old friend who's like one of the angel people, and like she ends up meeting her for is she needs Hime to model for her in like a magazine, because they have a magazine and they have to cater to everybody equally, but they have trouble getting Centaur people because I guess they're pretty rare. So she's like in it, and we just find out later. But then Nozomi's like finds the magazine photo shoot at a store and is like checking it out when like a Kechi, one of the goat girls, comes up to her and calls her a little Shota girl.
Yeah, Kechi is like a really horny classmate.
Yeah.
And not just because she has goat horns. That's not why she's horny. She's horny in this, like, she's trying constantly to get like girls to like make out. So like not like make out, but like get them together and do stuff.
Yeah, they do some more of that later on at the end of this episode. But she ends up like taking her back to her place, threatening her, like revealing Hime's secret, because you're not supposed to have a part-time job when you're in school or whatnot. So she takes her back to her place, and there's the fan service here for her, which is like the most subtle. There's nothing more unsexy to me than gray undergarments.
Yeah, she was wearing like a sports bra, and like she's flat as a board. So if that was fan service, I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all you got to see. And she's like whatnot. But then like her friend, like Unicorn Girl, one of the fauna people, is also friends with Akechi, and like ends up telling her, she's like, oh yeah, Akechi actually works as a part-time maid, so she can't really blackmail you with that anymore. So she confronts her, and it's pretty funny. There's like, we haven't met these characters yet, but there's an Antarctian snake girl in the magazine also.
Yeah, Antarctican or whatever. Yeah, from Antarctica.
Yeah, and see, that's its own thing, and that wasn't even in the description before, so who knows?
I'm excited to meet that character, because she's literally just like a snake upper body and then like a human lower body, I think. It's kind of crazy.
It's like she's got like a super long neck, but it's a snake neck with a snake head.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there is a pretty funny scene where like Nozomi asks Hime about, she's like, is there anything you've been hiding from us? And like she's talking about the modeling job she's been doing, but Hime thinks back to like this time when like they were at a bakery and they all left, and then they went their separate ways, and she went back and got an extra donut.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then there's this, I thought this part was boring, where she talks about what she wants to be when she grows up, and it was like a doctor, not a model. Something about being sued for malpractice, and it goes to veterinarian, and then fishmonger, and blah, 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 blah. It was
she's
boring.
Just trying to think of like what the easiest job would be in the future. Yeah. And it's just like, that joke didn't really hit that well.
Yeah. And then there's the second half where it's like the cold day, and like Akechi is like hiding in the wings of the class presidents because it's keeping her warm, because it's really cold, and like she's grabbing her boobs and everything. Yeah, she's just a hornball. But then like Kyoko grabs onto Hime for warmth, and they're like, it's not riding you. And like Nozomi gets on the other side, so they're just like leaning against her as they're walking to school, keeping warm because they're so cold.
I like that part.
Yeah. And then Hime's like, how about you think about sometime when you're warm, and they think back to like this super hot day where this is kind of fan servicey.
Oh yeah.
They're all in like the PE swimsuits, they're blue, but I mean they're still showing all the bust and whatnot. And looks like they're on a field trip, and what they do is they go to like this half submerged school where the mer people go to. And that was really cool. And
it was kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, and at first I was sitting there because like the mer people are a little strange. Like they have the mermaid body on the bottom, but then it splits just ever so slightly when it gets to the torso for like the private area. And at first I stared at it and I was like, how did I get those bikini bottoms on? But then I realized they're all side ties, so I'm like, oh, okay, you can get it on that way then.
I didn't even put that much thought into it, but that makes sense.
Dude, I was like staring. I was like, oh, side ties. But it's pretty funny because this is set up for like, you know, our main people aren't used to seeing mer people because they basically have to go to their own school and whatnot. And, you know, vice versa for them. So like, you know, each group is fascinated with the other group. And like some of the guys are trying to hit on, you know, some of the mer girls. But then like there's the fat cat guy and like the mer girls are like all over him because he's so different. And it's funny. He's like blushing.
They seem to be attracted to anybody that has like a different face or like a different
look.
And
one of the girls says that to Nozomi, and then she like holds up a book like, you're just like the main character, the main character in this book. I thought that was pretty funny. She like freaks out.
That was funny, but then the next part was not funny because like, okay, so like this mer girl is like, yeah, you look like my favorite Shota character, and then she's like, here, let me check, and she like pulls Nozomi's like swimsuit bottoms down to try and check if she has a dick, and I was like, you know, boundaries, little mer girl, boundaries.
Yeah, she jerks it back, but
that was intense, but
yeah. But anyways, then we get like this guy carrying a mer girl on that back to that cold day. And like he has to carry her because obviously he can't get around. And then like 3 girls come up and kind of make fun of her. Then they're walking away. And they're like, why does that guy put up with it? They're like, we know, you know, just because she's a childhood friend and she has, you know, big boobs and kind of cute. And then they kind of stop and look at each other and they're like suddenly realize how lucky he is, even though he has to carry her. I would carry her. She's cute as fuck. But, you know, they're like, oh man, really they're cute. Like, one of the comments like, wait, doesn't she meet all the requirements of a perfect girlfriend, childhood friend, big boobs? Really cute. They were like, ah, shit. And they just walk on. They're like, crap. Yeah. Then it just ends with like her looking up like walking assistant machines for mer people, and like one of them's like a Centaur thing, and it's freaking huge, and it costs like $60,000.
Yeah. So she's like, oh, I guess I won't use it. I was like, oh, that's too bad.
And
that's a kind of
I got the feeling the guy kind of likes carrying her around.
I think so.
Because, you know, she has to rely on him, and then, you know, that's just kind of something in his advantage. I don't know. There's a whole sub thing there, but it was a cute couple, I thought.
So yeah, for this whole show, I would say it's somewhere in between Monster Musume and it's Demi-chan, like Demi-chan wa Katari in the Tai. It's like somewhere in between those two shows. I don't think it's necessarily as good as either show, like especially not Demi-chan. I think that was better. Like, but because like it gets into like the psychology of like what these monster girls are like, but then it's not as fan servicey as Monster Musume. So it's like somewhere caught in between, and so I'm not sure like how popular it's going to end up being, but it's kind of fun. It's good for a few laughs, and it's pretty cute.
It has my attention at the moment.
Yeah, it's not bad. So yeah, let's move on though.
Oh yeah, take it away. I know you want to talk about everything because you wrote. Wait, I'm counting pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5.5, 5 3/4.
There we go.
Pages on 2 episodes.
So you would not expect me to write 5.5 pages about a show called Princess Principal.
That has a large number of lollies in it too.
Yes, it does. So this is an Amazon Strike show, and it is a original show, which is always interesting. The studios, there's 2 studios co-producing it. One is Actus, who are like very well known for Girls and Panzer, and Studio 3 Hertz, who are very well known. Panzer. So Studio 3 Hertz, who are well known for Dimension W and Flip Flappers, which was a big favorite of a lot of people a couple seasons ago. So the director is also well known, Masaki Tachibana, who's directed Barakamon, Tokyo Magnitude 8.0, also storyboarded Sarai no Moribito, which is one of my favorite anime, and Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex and Second Gig also storyboarded that show. So And also the series composition is by Ichiro Okochi, who is the original creator of Code Geass.
Wow, they got a lot of people behind this.
Yeah, it's a good team behind this show for sure. And I think they made something really cool. So episode 1 called Wired Liar. This show is set in an alt history, like steampunk Victorian age London. And it's kind of made in like a little bit of a film noir type style. Like it's got this like jazzy soundtrack to go along with that by this composer Yuki Kajira, who's known for great anime music. It starts off and it's like centered around this group of like female spies. And they're in the middle of this like kind of spy war between these two big nations that are in kind of like alt history Europe. There's a kingdom of Albion, which is basically Britain, I think. And then there's I'm actually might be confused about
it's like the Berlin Wall for Britain.
Yeah, and then there's like a Commonwealth of Albion, which is like the other side of the wall. And it like splits the kingdom into East and West, like Europe and like Western Europe and Eastern Europe, kind of. And there's like a secret spy war going on in London, which is like the front lines. I would also like to say like the OP before I get into the show. The OP is really awesome.
Mm-hmm. I like the ED too. I think it's just like nice and catchy, and
yeah,
I think it's just enough uplifting to bring you out of the darker tone of the show.
Exactly. The OP is like just like the girls are in this awesome like old car, like 1910s, 1920s, like kind of like a Duesenberger, like convertible car.
Steampunked up a little bit.
Yeah, steampunked up, and then like they're like flying through the air, and like each girl is reacting like with their own personality, like either smiling or like being terrified or just like flailing around. It's like really good. The animation is fantastic in that OP. I loved it. The episode starts off. We meet our first character, Ange, who is a girl with like short gray hair and glasses, and she sees this dude who's running, and he's her target basically. This guy is a man who is trying to defect to the west from the east, and so she is tasked to protect him basically. In the steampunk world, there's this like material called cavorite, and she has like a little ball contraption that's filled with it, and what it allows her to do is like control gravity. So like she can like float up into the air and like start flying away on a whim, or she can like reverse gravity and then like have herself drop back down to the ground and stuff. So she uses that to like pick up this guy, like get him out of there, and she drops down, and she's met by her friend, another spy, who is a very like little lowly girl named Chise, who has like a samurai sword and like a samurai hat, and she like darts around with her sword and like takes out a couple of like guys who are trying to follow them. And then she
takes out a car, doesn't she?
I think. Well, she eventually does. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Ange takes out the car later. I forget if Chise takes out a car.
No, when they're in the alleyway, when they first meet up, there's like two cars charge them down, and she like slices down the side of one and it like flips over.
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah. That was pretty intense. Yeah. The sound is really good with that too. So they meet up with the third girl. Her name is Dorothy. She looks like way older than the other girls. She's in like she's in the cool car waiting for them, and they all take off with the dude.
She's got some cool little glasses on.
Yeah. And so they're like racing through the streets. They're being chased by like another old car, but it's like more like a carriage car from like the early 1900s. So there's this cool sequence. Ange uses like cavorite to like float herself up and jump back onto the other vehicle, and then she uses cavorite again to make that car float. And then she jumps off it as the car goes like and hits a bridge overpass, like smacks into it. And then she floats back to the first car, and Chise grabs her hands and says like, "Tadaima," like welcome home. And Ange responds like, "I'm back," or whatever. Actually, no, I think Chise says "Okairi." That's what it is. "Okairi." And then Ange is like, "Tadaima." It's pretty cute. So, there's like a main group of 5 girl spies. We find out they all go to this privileged girls academy called like the Mayfair Girls School. We meet like one more girl who's like the youngest looking of them all. She looks like she could be like 7. Her name is Beatrice, and she's like running around. There's like a little bit of like a half fan service, half like telling us who these characters are scene where the guy who is to defecting has a blindfold on, and like the girls are changing his clothes. Though. Well, like they have like Chise's shirt open and they're showing like she has like a bandages over her chest because she's too young to wear a bra kind of thing.
Well, I thought that was because she was a samurai.
Oh, that might be it too, but I think it's because she's like super flat. Also,
and it was like a side. No, she wasn't super flat. It was like a side boob thing. Like she's holding down her boobs.
Yeah, that could be it too. Yeah. So, and then, but like Dorothy is right next to her and she's like way taller and has way bigger boobs. And so it's like a big, they're putting them next to each other for a reason. And then like Beatrice is running around to the background, like trying to make tea and shit. And like, she literally looks like she's like 6. So anyway, so like there's like a wide little range of ages for the girls in this main group. We then meet like a new girl, like who is they call Princess basically in the first episode. And so it's like these group of 5 who like have tea together out in this garden, and they're talking about like what to do with like this defector. And so Ange and Beatrice, well, Ange first has a conversation with the defector where he's like trying to banter back and forth with her, and she's kind of like lying to him a lot because like she's a spy. Basically, Ange throughout this whole episode, anytime she's asked a direct question, is giving like a lie as an answer, which is really interesting towards the end.
Well, she has to get back to the lizard planet, dude.
Yeah, she keeps saying she's like from the Black Lizard planet, and like she's a little weird. So she's talking to him and he's like, can you get something for me? She's like, yeah, probably. He's like, can you get a person? So it turns out he has a young sister who's in a hospital. Ange and Beatrice go to visit her and they find out that she has cavorite poisoning. And like she just yells at them to like leave the hospital. And they also notice that she has like really badly bruised and blistered feet. And Ange takes note of that. And Ange is really smart, so she puts something together with this information, but we don't know what it is yet. So yeah. Back later, what is it? Ange returns and asks the defector if he's defecting because of his sister's operation. And he claims that he would need like 10 years of salary to pay for it, but a rich man offered to pay as an exchange for his defection. That's his story. And like in a later conversation, Ange claims that she watched her parents die when she was 7, but the intelligence agency took her in and raised her. And she tells the defector not to let it bother him because it took place on the Black Lizard planet where she's from. And so like this indicated to me that her little like Black Lizard planet is a way for her to talk about like the trauma of her past a little bit and separate it from like how she's currently living. But anyway, after that, they try to Ange tells the defector that they're taking him over the wall like the next day. And he says, okay, that's great. And then in the next scene, he sends a message off by messenger pigeon, thinking that he's being sneaky to whoever he's working with. But the girls notice it. They were on the lookout for it, and now they know that he is actually a spy, or he's like working for somebody else, and he's not been telling them the truth. So they decide to take him over the wall that night instead of like 2 weeks from now or whatever, next Thursday. So Ange confronts him as they're like driving away in the middle of the night, and she knows that the real person he went to for help with his little sister's treatment was this guy, the Duke of Normandy. And the defection was all an act to find out more about the Commonwealth spies and their escape routes for defectors. And so while this is going on, Chise arrives at the enemy hideout and starts like slashing through their soldiers like butter with her sword. And Ange continues to explain like the defector's true intentions, noting that like, hey, I saw the blisters on your little sister's feet in the hospital, and they were from intense ballet training. And then like also the first time she met him, like out of his bag fell this like royal ballet acceptance letter. So she knows that she connected the dots, and he knows that he wasn't aiming for his little sister to defect. He was aiming for his little sister to like get accepted to this ballet school and stuff. So Dorothy and Chise get the enemy like security minister that they find at gunpoint, And then they confuse him with this phone call to their boss, who is actually just Beatrice with an altered, more manly voice, which was a really weird scene because it's like this tiny little girl, but this manly voice is coming out of her face. It was really weird. I guess that's her talent, though.
I was kind of like, whoa.
And I couldn't tell if she had like something under her like scarf that it was changing her voice, because like she like when she changed her voice in between, she like reached under her scarf and like moved something. So I don't know if she was doing it naturally or with like the help of like some weird device. Ange like stops the car with the defector and says like, "Hey, this is our last stop." He pulls a gun out of his bag and points it at her, and she's like, "Hey, the gun's not loaded." It's like, don't even try. So, and she shows him like an insurance form that she got earlier in the day after she left the hospital, and it's life insurance, and she's like, "Just sign it." And he tells her he'd expect as much from somebody who watched her family die. And then Ange tells him, "No, that was a lie. I told you, just to keep you off guard." And then as he signs the paper, he walks over to the gun she walks over to the gun that he dropped on the ground and picks it up. And he asks, "Are you going to kill me?" And she says no. And then right like after this millisecond after she says no, she shoots him. And then like she says no 3 more times and shoots him 3 more times. So it was interesting. She was lying about the gun not being loaded. She was lying about not killing him. She was lying about basically everything because she's a spy, and like she lies about everything. Basically.
Yeah, they make notes to say we're spies. We lie in the first episode and in the second episode.
Yes. But then at the end of the episode, we get a little hint that maybe Ange is a nicer person than initially led on, because we find out that the guy's body was found in the River Thames a week later. And the girls wonder aloud, like, why did it take a week? And the princess offers up that the insurance company wouldn't have paid for his policy if he had been found dead immediately, because his policy was taken out like just the day before, earlier that day. And so the princess tells Ange, "Hey, you're very kind." And she denies it, but the princess calls her a liar. Yeah, that's how the episode ends. So yeah, I loved like everything about that first episode. It's just like so well written. There's like so many like little threads to follow all the way through it. There was like a little bit of fan service, but it wasn't that much.
I do note that I feel like they hit every single age range for the girls.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I got into some arguments online about like whether like some of the girls were lolies or not, but I thought it was like useful to compare them with like when Beatrice and Ange go into the city. There's like lots of women standing around in the city that you can compare them to, and it's like, no, those are what the women in this universe look like. These are clearly little girls like who go to secondary school. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, whatever. But like except for Dorothy. And so in the second episode, we get some like clarification on why Dorothy looks older, and it's because she's 20 years old. So she's 20 years old and she's pretending to be a secondary school student because she is a spy. And she is a spy who grew up with Ange, and Ange and her grew up in the same orphanage, it turns out. This whole second episode is basically a flashback that gives us more backstory on where these girls came from. Ange and Dorothy have this mission to replace the princess of the kingdom. And the princess is the princess that we knew from the previous episode. And so the mission is to replace her so that the Commonwealth can have like more knowledge about the kingdom, basically. And so we also find out Beatrice is from like a low-ranking noble family, but she's like the only person who Princess makes friends with for some reason, which is kind of curious. But it makes her a little bit tougher to get close to. And so they are like at a ball, and they have like these party gowns on, these ball gowns, and they're trying to get close to the princess so they can like basically replace her. But they get last minute orders at the last second that say like, "Hey, actually there's something more important. There's a guy at the ball named Mr. Morgan, and he has a key to a vault that contains stolen blueprints for military warships. And he's going to hand them over to the Duke of Normandy, but we can't let that happen. So you need to get that key back." So they change up their plans. And Dorothy she's got the first plan, and her plan is the direct approach. She says she lowers down her her dress, the top of her dress, to show a lot more cleavage, and she just goes up to the guy, and she's like, "Hey, can I have this dance?" But it doesn't really work out because there's this dark skinned girl who's with him, who is cock blocking her basically.
Yep.
So that doesn't work. So then Ange has to come up with a second plan, and she has a more conniving plan. She has these little balls that are inside of a necklace she wears around her neck, and when she drops one in a glass of water, it turns it red, and so it looks like red wine. And so she goes up to talk to the princess, and she's like, "Hey," and she's talking this really cutesy voice. It's not like her at all, and she's pretending I really want to be your friend basically, and all this stuff. But then she eventually trips and spills the red liquid on the princess's dress, and she's apologizing, and they all go off to a side room, and the princess takes her dress off. There's a little tiny fan servicey scene of her in her corset, and Ange is like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll clean your dress, I'll have it back to you in just 2 seconds." So she and Dorothy go upstairs, and Dorothy's like, "I see what your plan is. You use this red organic dye that you can wash off instantly with bleach." And so now Ange is going to wear the princess's dress and a wig, and she looks exactly like her basically. Mm-hmm. And she goes back down to Mr. Morgan in the ball and has a dance with him, and he can't reject her because it's the princess, so he has to dance with her. And so she gets in close to him, and she kind of tells him what she knows about him is that you're trying to defect to be with your family, and she pretends to trip and leans into his chest and says I can hear one of your lungs is failing, and she concludes that oh, so you just want to spend your last days with your family. She's figuring out what he really wants. Meanwhile, the princess is in the side room. She's still undressed. She's talking to Beatrice. And she asks Beatrice this kind of mysterious question. She says, if you knew an angel and a devil, which one do you think would tell lies? And Beatrice is like, well, obviously the devil. And the princess says, well, then I'd rather be friends with the devil than the angel. And I was like, what the hell does that mean?
What was her reasoning? She didn't give her reasoning right away, did she?
She didn't give a reason right away. I think maybe she likes to be the one that tells lies sometimes, I think is what that amounted to. Back to Ange, she convinces Morgan to trust her, basically, and saying that she'll make it so his wife can defect to Cornwall in England, where they both grew up, but she needs the key. So he decides to trust her over the Duke of Normandy and gives the key to her. So Ange then returns the dress to the princess, and after a bit, the princess accuses Ange of being a spy. She sort of figured it out somehow. We don't know how yet. She says hey, my uncle is the Duke of Normandy who directs all the spies in the kingdom, and I know you're a spy. And so Ange admits it eventually because they can't do anything. They just need to keep this quiet. So Ange asks the princess, what are you after? And she says, I want to be queen. But she's only fourth in line to the throne. But she says, well, with your help, Ange, I could be number one, couldn't I? And Beatrice is appalled at this. She's like, why would you sell out our kingdom? And she's like, sorry, Beatrice, I'm actually one of the bad ones. So the princess tells Dorothy and Ange to pass the message on to their superiors, and that she wants them to join her. And if the answer is no, she'll expose the spies. So they've got pressure on them now. Mr. Morgan is leaving, and the Duke of Normandy arrives to the party. The Duke comes up to him and uses this little spy pistol to just shoot him
right in the gut.
Shoot one bullet into him, and then he's like, oh no, somebody shot this man, check him out, blah blah blah. And so they close off the party. He's like, we need to body check everyone. So Dorothy tells Ange to get rid of the key, but she has a better idea. Ange is going to give it to the princess because clearly they won't body check her. And if she can convince her superiors to answer yes to the princess's proposal, then they're all good. So Ange goes to the window, and she uses her cavorite ball to blink Morse code at a spy who's on a rooftop outside.
He's in a bell tower.
Yeah, a bell tower, yeah. And so the spy HQ is trying to make a decision on whether they should like follow Ange's proposal and like whether the princess is trying to double cross them. Because if she's a mole and a double agent, it would be a disaster for them. But it also is like a big opportunity. But like Ange signals them like one thing that changes their mind. She's like, hey, if the princess turns out to be an intelligence leak, I'll kill her. And so then they ring a nearby chapel bell to let them know that they've accepted the deal. And like the Duke was about to search Ange, but the princess stepped in the way, basically. So finally, we get to the really interesting scene at the end of the episode where
you're just like,
Ange,
what?
Exactly. It turns everything on its head. So Ange like tells Princess that, you know, our HQ has been trying like crazy to find out who the mole is that told you that I was a spy. And then Princess just says like, well, you're the one who told me. And we find out that we see that like Ange handed Princess a note, like when she was taking the dress away to like clean it. And what it says is, my dear Ange, so this is weird because Ange hands her a note that says, my dear Ange. So the princess's real name is Ange, which is why we've only known her as Princess till this point. So she says, the note says, my dear Ange, I've waited a long time for this moment. There are many things I'd like to talk about, but there's little time to explain you can't really read it. And the next line says, I become a spy like you became a princess. I'm a spy on a mission. My purpose is to steal Mr. Morgan's key. Would you lend me your dress for this purpose? I'll explain in detail later. I have to take responsibility for your difficult years. Sorry to spoil your dress. Yours truly, Charlotte. So Ange's real name is Charlotte, and the princess's real name is Ange. And Charlotte also says, like, at the end of the episode, hey, it's been 10 years. And then the princess says, like, welcome home. And so it's like, what just happened?
So like they have already switched identities like a long time ago is what we're led to believe.
It seems like it, yes.
And also that note, I didn't pause it, but it looked like it was almost too small to read on the screen. Like you'd have to enlarge it or something. Is that what you had to do?
People figure it out on the internet. Like I didn't even, I figured like you couldn't read it, but like other people had translated it and like enlarged it. Enhanced, you know,
which is crazy because this is so important.
Yeah, it is really important. Like, it's definitely gives you a little bit more information. Like, you could have maybe put it together already. Like, I was thinking that they grew up together somehow, or maybe Charlotte was like a bastard child of the king and like grew up in an orphanage because of that. But instead, like, no, they like switched identities. Probably Charlotte is probably the real princess, and Ange took her place for some reason. That we'll clearly learn more about it. But yeah, man, what a freaking cool show. Like, it really delivers on all like the little spycraft stuff with like the little gadgets and like all the lying and like, you know, misleading people and like double crossing. It's really good, man.
Yeah, no, really just, I don't know why they have to be lollies, but some of them have to be lollies, but it's the only thing I got against this. Other than that, I love this freaking show, dude.
Yeah, and honestly, the fan service has not been like over the top like so far. So like even though they're lollies, it's like, okay, it's, you know, whatever. If that's like what it takes to get people into like a really cool spy show, then maybe that's what we'll do. I mean, I would love if like these characters looked like Revy from Black Lagoon instead, but
yes,
not everybody can look like Revy.
Yeah, but even when they did like the fan service shot of the princess and like her garters and darn it, I said it earlier, whatever that freaking thing's called.
Corset.
Yeah, the corset. Like, even it showed her as like being really well developed and actually having like a way more mature body than a lolly body.
Yeah,
so I think that's gooder, but I don't really approve of it.
Yeah, she's somewhere in between because like they're wearing clothes that like push up their breasts also, so they could look smaller. Because like there's like a shot in the first episode where she's wearing like a nightgown and like you clearly can't see her chest at all. Like she looks like younger there, but yeah, so it's just somewhere in between. But as long as they're not doing egregious fan service, it's like it's not as bad as other shows airing this season. So yeah.
Yep.
All right, you want to move on?
Yeah. How about you tell me about this clean freak?
So Kapeki Danshi Aoyama-kun. This is on Crunchyroll. The English title is Clean Freak Aoyama-kun. The source is a manga. The studio is Studio Hibari, who did like seasons 1 to 3 of Major. They also did like that really creepy show you might have seen on YouTube called like Sleeping with Hinako or Bathing with Hinako or Training with Hinako. There are these like little anime where like Sleeping with Hinako is just like you watch this little moe girl sleep like for like half an hour. That's like the whole episode. And Bathing with Hinako is self-explanatory.
Screw that.
Yes, there's some pretty good YouTube videos of people like reacting to it. So anyway, this show, it kind of pretends to be a soccer show, but it's really not a soccer show. It's more about the main character, Aoyama, who is a clean freak. He's on the soccer team and he cannot take getting dirty like at all. Like he goes to crazy lengths to avoid getting dirty. He's always like taking showers. Like he's always like cleaning all of the soccer balls after practice, like so they're like spotless. And it's just ridiculous. And he has a teammate named Zaizen, who's like a more typical like sports anime character, who's just like a badass dude, like captain of the soccer team. And he's just like does not understand Aoyama at all. And he gets annoyed because like all of the girls and then like also a lot of guys show up to their soccer practices and like root for Aoyama and they're just like totally in love with Aoyama. It's a little bit like that show Sakamoto-kun from a couple seasons ago where like he was like the coolest guy in the school and like everybody like fawned over him all the time and like he could do no wrong. It's a little bit like that. The other major character in this show is this little girl, what's her name? Mocha, who is totally a stalker. She is a childhood friend of Aoyama, and she like wants to like make him notice her again somehow. Which it gets into that a lot in the second episode. Basically, like this is like a recurring theme this this season, where a girl will have had one conversation ever with a guy in elementary school, but be like hopelessly in love with him for the rest of their lives. So that's what happened with him and Mocha. Like they had this one conversation because he was like playing with a cat, but like when he was playing with the cat, he was like not letting the cat touch him, and the cat got really annoyed and tried to like jump all over him, but like he had like super fast reflexes and got out of the way because he is super crazy about being clean. So Mocha comes up to him and she's like, I knitted you this little doll of a cat. You can have it if you want. And he's like, oh, that's really cute. Can you wash it before you give it to me? So that's like the one conversation they ever had, basically. And then Mocha, the soccer team finds out that someone has mysteriously been cleaning their locker room. And they're like, this is nice. We'll just pretend it's a cleaning fairy and not some really creepy thing. But eventually Aoyama catches Mocha as the one who's been cleaning the locker room this whole time. And she's been leaving like little cat dolls in his locker. And so that's how he knew. And she wanted to see if he remembered her at all. Because like this is like her memory from elementary school. He might not remember the little cat things, but he does remember. But like when he tells her he remembers, he's like, number one, if you're going to keep cleaning our like locker room, use this cleaning solution. It's much better. He's just like super obsessed with cleaning stuff. And he's like, number two, also like I remember the cat doll, like blah, 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 blah.
It would probably annoy me to watch this show because he's not a neat freak, a germaphobe, basically.
Yeah, he's super germophobic. There is like at the end of episode 1.
So remember that show Monk?
Yes.
It's Monk, the soccer player.
Yeah, pretty much. It's very similar, actually. At the end of episode 1, there's like a short scene where in order to make a play on the soccer field, he got dirty. And he was like, I can handle it if it's only for like the last couple minutes of the game. That was his like concession. But yeah, most of the time he just like doesn't want to get dirty at all. And then like the whole second half of the second episode is about like all of the other teammates discover that his towel smells really good. So every teammate starts like sniffing his towel, and it gets like really out of control. And like one of the teammates is like, at some point he's like, oh my God, the whole team is rotten to its core. And then like Mocha's like, what am I gonna do if I don't stop them? They're gonna defile Aoyama-kun. Like, they're basically like Fujoshi.
This sounds dumb as hell, dude.
Yeah. And then Zaizen, who's like the last holdout who hasn't sniffed the towel, is sitting there after practice, like waiting for Aoyama or something. And the towel like gets blown by some wind and falls off like the locker, and he goes to dive and save the towel from hitting the floor because he knows how much Aoyama cares about having a clean towel. But when he grabs the towel, it gets close to his face, and he starts sniffing it, and it reminds him of like his childhood playing in like some fields with his mother. And so like when Aoyama comes back into the locker room, he's got like the friggin' towel like clamped over his face, and he's just like taking the biggest whiffs of it possible, and he's like, please, this isn't what it looks like. And Aoyama's like, just please dispose of that towel, like, just get rid of it. I can't. So yeah, gosh. I don't know, that's kind of, yeah, the show is like totally not about soccer at all. It's way more about like the comedy hijinks of this germaphobe and his like little Fujoshi stalker friend, and like the captain of the soccer team who's like serious, but I don't know. Like, I really don't know where it's going. I don't really know what to think of the show. It's kind of funny, but it's not fantastic, I would say. So,
yeah, it's definitely not a show for me. I'd be bored.
Yeah. All right, I'll take the next show because I think I watched this one. This is really quick. This was Battle Girl High School Battle Girl Project.
I can't believe you watched this. I said it as like a joke to you one day, then you ended up watching it.
So the only reason, let me introduce this. So it's on High Dive, by the way, which is a new streaming service from Sentai Filmworks for all their shows, which actually has some interesting new features, but goddamn, I can't pay for another streaming service. It's ridiculous.
No kidding. How much is this one?
It's not that bad. It might be like $4.99 a month. $5
$5.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just like another $5 on top of all my other streaming services. So the source for this is it comes from a mobile game, which is very clear. The studio is Silverlink. The director is Noriaki Akitaya, who directed Bakuman seasons 1 through 3 and Active Rage from a couple seasons ago. Also notable is this has a pretty good voice cast for the girls, like Sora Amamiya, Nao Toyama, Saori Hayami, Aoi Yuki, Maya Uchida. It's like a pretty stacked voice cast. So they paid for that for sure. But basically, the only reason I really wanted to watch this show is because it has very similar character designs to Idolmaster, which I really liked. And so I wanted to see if this show would be nearly as good as that. And it is kind of an idol show, but it's really more of like a Battle Girls show. And it's very clear that it's like a Battle Girl game adaptation. Because like, especially in the second episode, like all the girls start saying like, we need to retrain ourselves so we can hit higher levels and then like fight like stronger enemies and stuff. And so it gets into like, okay, yeah, this is really just trying to sell the mobile game like very blatantly. Animation wise, it's like pretty decent. Like all of the characters are little girls. Basically, they're younger. They're younger than the Idolmaster characters. So while they have the same character designs, they're younger than that. And they are broken up into kind of groups of 3 because like they introduce maybe like 20 girls in the first episode, and it's like impossible to keep track. So instead, they kind of like group them up into 3s, and it's like, remember this trio of girls that like kind of interact with each other? Yeah, sure. You do, right? And yeah, you don't really. None of the characters are very memorable. They add another character at the end of episode 1 who's like some girl who is like higher level than them and is like kind of mean. And yeah, they do some fighting. And then there's also just some like cute slice of life stuff at the headquarters. And then they have like, there's like an adult man who yells out orders to them, who is clearly like supposed to represent the player of the game. And he has like no personality whatsoever. He's just like kind of a self-insert, obviously. And then at some point in the second episode, like bath scenes started to happen. And I was like, okay, I'm done. That was basically it. I was like, okay, so they took them 2 episodes to get the bath scenes. And I think they have like nothing else to offer after that. So
that was it? Jesus.
Pretty much. That's it. So that was pretty bad show, but that's just Sunday. How about Monday?
Oh, we're finally out of Sundays. Mondays. I'll introduce this one, and then you can take it because you wrote this. So Mondays, Tenchi no 3P ! Don't watch the show. It's on Crunchyroll. English title is Angels 3-piece. The source is a light novel. The studio is by none other than Project Number 9, known for trash fan service anime. Director is Shinsuke Yanagi, and you thought there is never a girl online. Netego no Yome wa Ononako ja ne to omoto. I butchered the shit out of that.
That's just the Japanese name for and you never thought there was a girl online also, sorry.
Yeah, Momo Kyun sword. So yeah, nothing much there. But my oh geez. Okay, so episode title, Heart Throbbing for Elementary School Kids. If there was ever anything, that's not good. If there's ever anything to tell you to turn around now, it's this fucking title.
So here, let's start.
Okay,
like,
the one thing I wrote about this was, why did I watch this? Because you told me it was terrible, and I'm like, it can't be as bad as he thinks it is. God.
So the interesting thing about this is they put a lot of effort into this show. And like the first half of this episode leads you to believe that it might actually be like an interesting anime.
Yeah, it does.
It starts off with our main character whose name is Kyo Nukui. He's this guy who is like a hikikomori shut-in. And like you even see this scene of his classmates. There's like a roll call at school and they call his name and somebody starts like kind of laughing because they're like, of course he's not here again. And some girl at school is like, really? Do you want to laugh at him? Like somebody who's struggling with like psychological problems like that. And he's like, he kind of shuts up and it's like, oh, interesting. So like people are like sort of standing up for him and like his issues. And so he basically stays at home and he makes music on his computer using like the program Cubase. And they like fairly accurately like modeled like the program Cubase. It like looks pretty good. And yeah, he just like writes music and posts it online. And so that's what leads to him meeting some people. He gets a message that somebody like really liked his music and wants to meet with him in person to talk about it. And so he gets kind of excited, but he's like really like reluctant to go outside because he's such a shut-in. But he eventually decides to just do it. So this is where the show leaps off the rails because the person who contacted them, even though they wrote and sounded like an adult, was actually a 10-year-old girl named Jun Goto.
Who is super shy.
She's a 5th grader. She's super, super shy. She looks exactly like the main character of Is the Order a Rabbit? She's got like that little purple hair with like the side, like head, like side braid kind of thing or ponytail going on. And so she's like got this very breathy, like high voice, typical like lowly voice. And she's barely able to talk to Kyo without like holding back tears. And the camera already starts like one of the first shots of her is an upskirt. Like you don't see her underwear, but you see up her skirt, like to her, like the little backs of her knees. And it's like, okay, already it's like, okay, we've seen this. This is like very Eromanga Sensei already. Like,
God,
we know what's going on here.
You do see it though.
Yeah.
And so like they redden it too. It's so bad.
Yeah, they redden it to show that like her skin is like still like baby skin, basically, is what that's showing. So, and also she also has 2 friends with her. One is sort of like a little tsundere girl. They're also like the same age. And another is this like little tiny girl who is like really sleepy all the time. And she's really, I'll admit, she's really cute. Like just, I love that like little like girl who is constantly falling asleep thing. Like it's just funny to me. But yeah, she's like, the reason she's constantly falling asleep is because she's so young and she can't even control her nap times yet. Like that's why she's constantly falling asleep. So Kyo at this point sees a video game prompt come up in his head because he's like, you have run into an elementary school girl. What do you do? It looks like an RPG and the options are like attack, defend, run. And he's like, I should escape. but he knows he should run because like this situation would look really bad to any normal person.
Yep.
A high school boy meeting elementary school girls over the internet and meeting them in person. And he imagines this news article where his like classmates would say, yeah, that doesn't really surprise me if they saw that news. I thought that was really funny. But yeah, anyway, so it's starting to get a little sketchy. And then they're like, we need you to come with us. Like, you need to follow us somewhere. And he's like, really? Why do I need to go? And they're like, well, if you don't come with us, we're going to cry and pretend that you touched us like inappropriately. And then I was like, oh God. So they're making these little girls out to be like predatory, like, like kidnapping him. Okay. And so he goes with them now that they've threatened him, and they wind up at a church. And it turns out it's like an orphanage that has like an attached church, and it's called Little Wing, and it's where they live. And he goes inside the church and he's like, wow, this place is really nice. And the girls get like all happy because they like the place. He likes the place they live. Mm-hmm. And then they take him down into this like sex dungeon.
Oh God.
Let me back up a second. They go to this side room and they move this like statue of a saint to the side. And there's a hidden stairway underneath it. And they take him down there. And I'm like, in a church, what would this secret room be used for?
Left over from medieval times.
Yeah, right. But okay, what happens to be down there is a bunch of band equipment. And it's actually like, it looks pretty cool. It's like, they have like Marshall and Bassman amps. They got like vintage like 60s guitars. They've got some Gretsch drums, like really nice equipment. And he's like, holy crap, where'd you get all this stuff? And they're like, oh, it's kind of sitting around. And then the girls are like, please listen to us. And they play a song. And so didn't you say you were like laughing your ass off during this song?
Oh, what? Oh, there was a certain thing that happened. I don't remember what it was, but it was like, I think it was when it like started sexualizing him. Oh, it was the girl drummer with her like her legs open. It's just showing a straight up crotch shot. I just lost it. My mind just snapped and I just started laughing.
Especially since she's like the youngest looking one who's like always falling asleep. Like there's this little thing where they're like, hey, please try and stay awake while we set up our guitars. And she's like squeezing her cheeks to stay awake, pinching her cheeks. And then like, yeah, when they start playing, she's drumming and she has her legs spread apart because she's drumming, but she's wearing a skirt. And then they just like, the camera just focuses right on her crotch, and it's like
right on it. I was just like, fuck this show, dude.
The camera has no chill whatsoever.
No.
And so after they finished playing, it was like a decent like performance. The sounded a little bit weird, but like, hey, they played well for little girls, 10-year-olds. So after the performance, he's like, oh my God, that was so good. And then the drummer girl like appears in front of him and then runs up and presses her body into his crotch. Yep. Grabs him tightly and then looks up at him and calls him like, Kyoni. And then like asks him like if he'll do them a favor. And the oldest one, like the little tsundere one, is like, if you do us this favor, I'll let you touch me just a little bit.
Holy shit.
So, okay, there's been a lot of controversy over this line because apparently in Japanese, what she really said was, I'll let you touch it a little bit. But there is like sexy saxophone music playing in the background. But what it's going to be in the next episode, which I haven't seen yet because it hasn't aired.
Oh my God, that's worse.
No, she's saying, I'm going to let you touch the guitar a little bit.
Oh.
That's
well, why did
like going to be
do that?
Well, because like it's supposed to be a double entendre, clearly. So I think the translator is like, okay, this is what they want us to think that she's saying. She's invited him to be sexy. And like that would be bad enough, except after the credits, there's this short scene where Kyo admits like, I just lusted after a little girl. Forgive me, Father, I have sinned. And like, it's like, dude, oh my God, are you serious right now? Like, please, like, leave. Get out of here. You know what you're doing is wrong. Like, man, this was just so bad. Like, it just, like, so blatantly joked around with, like, pedophilia. To the point where I was just like, man, how far are they going to keep pushing this? Like, I thought Eromanga Sensei was far. But, like, these girls are younger than that. They're, like, 10 instead of 12. And they look even younger than 10, some of them.
Yep.
And it's just like, God... this garbage. So yeah, this show's a garbage fire. Don't watch it. That's basically all I have to say about it.
Oh gosh, I don't have. We joked about like. I think it was the other show you joked about doing a drink your way through. That was Hajimete no Gao, maybe.
Oh yeah, I joked about this one. I joked about that one. Yeah, we're still deciding on what show we might watch.
But it's like so bad you don't want to give it more added exposure.
Yeah, this one was the one where I said like, no, I don't want more people to watch this. Like with Eromanga Sensei, so many people were already watching it. Yeah, and I was like, whatever, we could have fun with this.
And it was fun, but this one's just like so bad with the pedophilia. It's like, it's disturbing to watch, really.
Yeah, it's pretty disturbing. And it started off so interesting. That's what really pissed me off more than anything. It started off something like a little bit like Welcome to the NHK, and then it just devolved into this crap. So, next show.
I actually read the manga for this one.
All right, I'll introduce it, and then have you seen the episode? Or
no, I didn't watch it.
All right, so I'll talk about it. So you can tell me if it's different from the manga at all.
Okay.
It's called Yokai Apartment no Yuga na Nichijo, or Elegant Yokai Apartment Life, which is airing on Crunchyroll. Its source is a light novel, and I guess it has a manga too, obviously. The studio who is producing it is Shin-A Animation, who have done lots of good stuff. Sweetness and Lightning, Tonari no Seki-kun, Doraemon they do Crayon Shin-chan, so they do this crazy big children's shows. And the director, Mitsuo Hashimoto, directed like Initial D, Fifth Stage, and Final Stage, and like a bunch of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z episodes and movies. So yeah, he's a pretty experienced director. So yeah, this basic premise of this show, there's a guy named Inaba, Yushi Inaba, who is graduating from middle school and looking forward to going to high school. His parents both died basically when he was 7 or something, I think, in a car crash.
Yikes.
And so he's been living with his uncle and aunt and his cousin Eriko, who really doesn't like him. She's a girl, and like she just like doesn't like him for whatever reason. So he kind of doesn't like living with them, and he wants to get out on his own. And he sees this chance like to go to high school as like, I can finally live in like the dorms and it'll be great and I can be on my own. And then it like cuts to a news report where like his high school dorm is burning down. And he's like, are you serious? Yeah. And so he goes and like asks like a whole bunch of different like realtors for like an apartment, basically a cheap apartment near the school, but he can't find anything until eventually he's like sitting in a playground and this ghostly boy comes up to him and says like, hey, you should go to that realtor. I know that they have like good deals on this like one place. And he's like, okay. So he goes, and the realtor's like, okay, I've got this one place. It's like really cheap rent, and it's like just like a couple stops, like a couple blocks from like the stop to go to school and all this stuff. It's like perfect situation. And he's like, this sounds a little too perfect. Like, is there anything I should know about this place? And the guy is just like, well, it's kind of haunted. So he goes, and he's like, he thinks he's joking. But he goes to the place, and he meets, the first guy he meets is this guy who always has his eyes closed. And he has like a ponytail. His name is Ishiki Renmei. And he's like an author. He's one of Inaba's favorite authors, actually. And the next person he meets is this ponytailed girl named Akine Kuga, who is a high school second year at the school he's going to. And like, yeah, so at dinner time, Inaba is like just eating with them at first. And then he starts to notice that like weird tenants from the apartment start pouring into the cafeteria. Like some of them just kind of look like zombies or like weird, like ghostly people. And he's starting to realize that something's a little bit off. And he tries to ask Akine, but she goes off to work like the night shift at the hospital. And so he's left alone, and he tries to ask some people like what's going on. And he eventually finds out from Ishiki, like, yes, this is a yokai apartment building. And like they're in like these baths that are underneath the apartment, like that are like basically like a natural hot spring underneath the apartment building. And he's like, oh, let me introduce you to the landlord. And it's this like giant yokai monster who like floods the whole like bath. And then he wakes up the next morning and he thought he just had a nightmare, but he realizes it was all true. And yeah. So, and when Akine gets home, he's like, look behind you, watch out. There's like this evil spirit zombie thing like coming up to her. And as it gets close to her, she like uses magic to purify it. And she tells him, hey, I'm an exorcist in training. And like, yeah, the second episode, more of the same. He's just meeting more of the people who live in the apartments. There's like a delinquent painter guy named Akira who has a wolf spirit companion named Cigar. There's this guy who has like a purple suit with an eye patch, and he's named Antiquary. And he offers to give Inaba like a unicorn horn that kind of looks like the drill key from Gurren Lagann to keep himself pure or something. It was kind of interesting. And then there's a girl we meet named Fan Service Chan. That's not her actual name. Her name is Mariko, but she's just like has big boobs and she's
and she always walks around naked. Yeah, but it's like lighthearted ghost stuff, so yeah.
It is very lighthearted. She is a ghost, and like it's funny because Akira warns Inaba like, hey, she may not look it, but she's actually really incredibly old. So yeah. Another cute character is the one who cooks all their meals. Her name is Ruriko, and she's very shy, and you can only ever see her hands, but all of her hand gestures are like really cute. You can tell she's like a very cute person. And she always cooks food for them and is like really sweet. At school, basically in the second episode, he joins like this English conversation club because he wants to have a better understanding of English for like jobs. And there's this cute girl in the club named Tashiro. And after school, they're leaving, and he has like a premonition of something bad happening to her. And he starts like running towards her, but it's a little too late. She gets hit by a motorcycle. So like he had this premonition that this bad thing was going to happen, and it did. And then he like goes and like holds her hand. And as he holds her hand, he like wishes that like nothing bad had happened to her and he had done something sooner. And it turns out he has some kind of like powers because he's living at this place. Like this green stuff floats in the air, and then like a black mist comes out of Tashiro's body and into him. And he's like, what's going on? He basically takes on like the burden of all her pain, which is what Akine explains to him later. And then Akine like got to the scene of the incident too, and took his black mist away from him and then like released it into the atmosphere. So that's basically what she can do as an exorcist. So yeah, he's got these like strange powers that are starting to emerge now. And then like he goes to the hospital to see Tashiro, and she thinks like, yeah, when I saw your face, all of the pain disappeared just magically. And he's like, yeah, that's totally what happened. So she's kind of like into him now because he saved her. So it's a pretty solid show. That's basically the whole second episode. I don't have many complaints about it. It's like a solid like yokai show. There's a lot of good shows in this genre. Like I guess maybe the most popular one is Natsume Yujinsho. So like I don't think it's probably as good as that show, but it does focus on like the family aspect that makes Natsume Yujinsho so popular and so good. But yeah, I don't know. I would say this is like pretty decent average yokai show. That's about all I have to say about it.
Yeah, it sounds exactly just like the manga is so far. And it's just a fun to read. I don't think it's like too great or anything like that, but
yeah.
It's cool.
All right, why don't you introduce the next one?
I also read this one, and I dropped it after like the 50th one because it sucks. Koitu Uso, Anime Strike. The English title, Love and Lies. Source is a manga. Studio is Liden Films. The director is Seiki Takuno, and he has done Aoyama-kun and Seven Witches, Seiko Boys, and Poco's Udon World. And I've seen none of these. But I have read Aoyama-kun and Seven Witches, so
that's a really fun show. I like that show a lot. Yeah.
But yeah, it's the reason why is this show is super predictable and it never goes anywhere with anything, and that's why I ended up dropping the manga. I just couldn't care anymore.
Yeah, I could see like even from the beginning episodes, I can kind of tell where this show was headed. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Yeah, you wrote a lot for the first episode, but then really backed off on the second one here.
Yeah. So I'll say, basically, the whole premise of this is like they live in a world where when you're 16, you get a notification of who your future spouse is going to be. Like, so the Japanese government basically chooses your wife or husband for you. And it's because there's such low birth rates in Japan. This is their way of fixing it. And they also sell it as like, oh, it's gonna like the matchmaking process leads to couples that have a higher average intelligence. So it's like a little bit of like eugenics project too. It's like making like a master race of Japanese people at the same time,
really want to
saving the birth rate problem. So obviously, we're going to have a main character who has a conflict with this system.
Back on.
So basically, the main character is a boy named Neji, and he's been in love like his whole life with this girl named what the heck is her name? Takasaki.
Takasaki.
Or Takasaki, yeah. And so also Neji's first name is Yukari. He's named after the Yukari marriage system, which is what this system of marriage is called. And so, yeah, he's been in love with Takasaki ever since they were little kids. Like, and it's another scene like we talked about earlier where one thing happened between them when they were in elementary school. Basically, he let her share his eraser, and he fell in love with her after that. Basically, because like
doesn't everybody?
Well, she whispered "thank you" in his ear very sweetly, and of course, he fell in love forever. But then he like never talked to her again. So like they meet up in high school, and he goes up to her and he's like, "Can you meet with me after school?" And she's like, "What?" Also, her friends are like, "Oh, look, it's some guy confessing again. What is this, like the third time that month?" And so she gets confessed to a lot. I also mentioned briefly, this show looks a lot like Scum's Wish, like just art style wise.
Oh, do they have really big eyes?
Yeah.
Okay, because they do in the manga also.
Yeah, very, very big eyes. So like, yeah, Takasaki doesn't really remember who he is, but he like is determined, and like as she walks away, he yells after her like, "Well, I'm gonna wait at this playground like at blank o'clock at night, and like I'll be there." Blah blah blah. So yeah, he waits there. Of course, she shows up eventually after he like almost gets like caught by the police and like told to go home. But yeah, so it's interesting. She apologizes for being late. The camera gives us like a little nice butt shot of her. And then they sit down to the bench, and Neji doesn't know what to say to her. And she sees that he was like making these burial grounds in like a little sand pit on the playground. And she remembers that he gave a presentation in elementary school about those burial grounds. And so it turns out she lied about not remembering him. And then so Neji then like goes like full throttle. He lets it all out. He tells her like he's been trying to change his appearance to look good next to her. He's like stressed his parents out over cram school so he can get into the same high school as her. And he says like, "I owe you everything I am today." And then he like confesses that he loves her. And she starts to tear up. And like I thought, like first of all, I was like, wow, that's a strong like a strong confession, like a little bit stalkerish almost. But it turns out she feels the same way because she has the other half of the eraser, and she still remembers him because of the eraser thing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so they hug after they talk a little bit more.
Tell me you rolled your eyes at least.
Oh, definitely, because like that was ridiculous. He tells her that like he wants to be with her forever. She asks, and then it was kind of interesting. She asks like to kiss him, and like tells him that the way she likes him makes her want to do more than just kiss. So I was like, ooh, it's about to get hot and heavy like Scum's Wish.
It goes nowhere.
But they get interrupted, of course. And it's like the clock hits midnight. And so the whole reason Neji confessed that day is because it's the day before his 16th birthday. And so for whatever reason, the government of Japan, these people know exactly where he is at midnight and come at midnight to deliver an envelope to him. Also, he gets a notification on his phone. The notification pops up and it says, "Your future wife is Takasaki." And he's like super excited, but then his phone kind of wigs out and goes black. And then, so that's when like the actual officers from the government show up and they hand him an envelope. And the envelope says, "Your wife is not Takasaki. It's a girl named Lilina Sanada." So he's like, "Wait, I just got this freaking message on my phone. What the hell's going on?" And they're like, "Oh no, there could never be a mistake." Blah, blah, blah.
And 70 chapters later, they never address this. That's why I dropped it. I was like, we're getting nowhere with this. I really want to know what happens. And maybe the anime does get there, but it never did in the manga. It was horrible.
Yeah, that's bad. So yeah, he is like really upset, and like Takasaki tells him to like just let's have this like night as like a memory for the rest of our lives. Basically, we'll just like live off this memory and we won't do anything about it. And she like runs away crying, and he runs after her and he catches up and he like hugs her and kisses her, and he's like, no, I want to stay with you, blah blah blah, we got to make this work somehow. Anyway, so that's the first episode. The second episode basically introduces us to his fiance who's been chosen. She's a really cute girl with like red hair named Lilina. And he goes to like a meeting with her and her parents, and it's at like some special inn. It's like where his parents had their first meeting when they were chosen to be together. And so, yeah, it's interesting. She's getting pissed off at him because he's not showing a lot of like, he's not being very polite and acting like he's interested. She even says like, I know you're not interested. Of course, we don't even know each other. But at least like be polite and act like you are. Like that's what I'm trying to do. So she like goes off, and his parents are like, you better go after her and make things right. So he goes after her, and she winds up being in like this storage room. He like finds her, and she's like, shh, don't make any noise. And she like pulls him in, and of course he like falls on top of her. Because it's anime. And so they have this long conversation about like what's really the deal, and he eventually realizes she's very easy to talk to and tells her that the whole story about him and Takasaki. And she's like, oh my god, it's like a TV show, it's so romantic, kind of thing. And also her shirt button has somehow managed to open itself during this conversation, as they always do. And so, but like basically they kind of make better friends, and they're like, hey, let's put on a show for our parents. So they hold hands when they go back. And then he realizes like, oh, by the way, Rowena, I should have told you this earlier, but your shirt's open. She gets really pissed and like hits him. Back at school. Yeah. Back at school, like the guys are like teasing they're teasing, what's his name? Yukari about like your future wife, like show us pictures, and like they see pictures on his phone, and then they're teasing Takasaki about like, hey, do you want to see the picture? Because like I think this guy in purple, he kind of knows what's the deal. Like he seems to be able to read people. We don't know much more about him yet, but he seems kind of like an asshole. And she's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Why would I be interested in that? So anyway, Yukari goes to Rowena's school on her invitation, and he asks some girls if they know anyone, if they know who she is, like where she is. And they say, oh yeah, Sanada Mushi, which means like tapeworm or something. That's their nickname for her. She's in the nurse's office because she got overheated during PE. So he goes in the nurse's office and like wakes her up, and she wants to get changed. And he asks about her nickname while she's getting changed behind a curtain. And she's like, she jumps out and she's like, who told you that? And like, of course she's only wearing her underwear. Like, but she doesn't realize it because she's like, she wants to know like who the hell is like freaking like who told you? And he's like, Pantsu, and like cause that all he can say is panties. And he's like, she's like, who's Pantsu? Who the hell is Pantsu? So eventually, like she tells,
you want to tell me who Pantsu is?
Yeah, God damn it, give me up, Pantsu.
God dang, I can't believe you're still doing this.
Yeah, so okay, like long story short, like yeah, she eventually realizes she wasn't wearing any pants. It's a funny kind of scene. She like hits him again. But like she explains that she was like the smartest girl in her grade, but like other people didn't like her. She didn't fit in, so she got a mean nickname, blah blah blah. And Yukari keeps saying to her like, wow, you know, it's like so easy to talk to you, blah 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 blah. It's like way easier than Takasaki or whatever. So they go to a McDonald's afterwards.
Was it a McDonald's?
Yes, it was like a WickDonald's, like with a W.
Okay.
The reason they go there is because they bump into Takahashi or whatever, and Rowena goes up to her and like introduces herself. She's like, I'm Yukari's fiance. I want you to tell me like everything about him. And so Takahashi like just goes to McDonald's, sits with her, and just like blurts out everything she loves about Yukari, like from all these like little things about how like his hair is stupid and stuff to like bigger things. And they become friends, and like Rowena even admits like, oh, I like him because he doesn't have any composure, but he's nice. And so they leave and they're friends, and Rowena's like crying because she made a friend and it's like her first friend. And then Yukari is like horrified because he doesn't know what to do, because like Rowena is now friends with the girl he actually loves. And yeah, that's basically it. And then like Rowena at the end of the episode says like, I have a good idea, you should go kiss Yukari again, or sorry, you should go kiss Takahashi again one more time. And that's where episode 2 ends. It's like, yeah, it's a very blatantly like manipulative romance show. Yeah, and I can definitely see several ways that it could go, but like, yeah, there's some that are more obvious than others. Clearly, like, there's going to be a little bit of tragedy here, but yeah, this 3-way relationship is not going to work out, clearly. But
no.
Yeah, I'm kind of annoyed to hear that, like, we don't hear what the hell happened with that cell phone message for a long time.
An extremely long time.
I would like to know. That was kind of one of the more interesting things. But anyway, let's move on.
Yay. Tuesdays. Oh, it's not. Oh, you don't have it in the notes. It's Tuesdays, but it's on the side.
Oh.
Wonder how that happened.
Because I don't know how the hell that happened, actually. That's weird.
So, anyways, Isekai Shokudo. It's on Crunchyroll. I'm already hungry before I even start this. The English title is Restaurant to Another World. Source is a light novel. Studio Silverlink. Done all kinds of stuff. Just look it up. Director Masato Jinbo. He has done Fate, Prism / Ilia 2nd and 3rd seasons, and Chaos Child. But episode 1, beef stew / breakfast special. And you were super hyped about this opening, weren't you?
Yeah, I liked it. It's called like 1 in a Billion by the band's name is Wake Up Maine. It was very cheery, right off the bat. Like I just liked that OP a lot. And yeah, it set the tone.
Yeah, there's a quick opening of like us overhearing like a granddad and grandson talking about the restaurant, and like they just say the shop closes up later, and we watch a clock hit midnight before it cuts to the opening. That's what it did. Then it did the opening. But then we are greeted by a delicious dish of like teriyaki chicken, and there's a samurai eating it, saying it goes the best with white rice. But then there's also like a monk who I'm assuming is supposed to be like a god or something from the 2nd episode. He's sitting next to him, and he's like, no, the pork loin cutlet is what goes best with white rice. But then, like, even further, there's like some 1600s farmer saying it goes best with curry rice because it's in the name. And it just keeps showing us all this food, and each one just makes you hungrier and hungrier. And like, it just keeps going over the top. We have like a lineman saying it goes best with pork cutlet rice bowl. And like, this just escalates until the chef comes out of the back and threatens them that he will never cook for them again unless they settle down. And they're all like, oh, okay. we'll behave. That was pretty funny. We get introduced to this beautiful dragon queen as she lands in front of a door and transforms into a beautiful and voluptuous and 100,000-year-old dragon lady. She's gorgeous. She enters the door into the restaurant and orders the beef stew, just like she does every single time. And she also brought a large pot with her, so she brings some back with her. And when she goes back home, she transforms into a dragon, and she's like sitting there just like lapping up the stew with her tongue. It's pretty funny. I really liked it.
Yeah, it was pretty cute.
Yeah. But then the chef wakes up the next day, and he finds like a dirty girl with like ram horns lying asleep on the floor. She explains her story about being too hungry to eat, and gets up when she starts like to smell something good. And she's telling her story here, but she was
too hungry to sleep, not too hungry to eat.
Yeah. So she gets up and she finds that door, changes that door, which goes into his kitchen, and she eats the soup she found on the stove, and she's like, oh, it's a dream, so it's okay if I eat this, it's just a dream. But since she's kind of pretty much down on her luck or whatever, the chef like offers her a job and free meals. He also finds out like she used to be a waitress, but then she got fired when they found out she had horns and she was part demon. So she's already got some of the experience. He ends up cooking breakfast for both of them, and she's just like blown away by everything he has prepared. He then begins just to like show her some of the ropes of the job and decides she should wash up first. He also provides her with like work clothes. It's not yes or no fan servicey. What would you think?
I think the shower scene is slightly fan servicey, but it's like It's not like egregious, I would say, but it is pretty early in a series to start showing like shower scenes. It's kind of like the shower scene in Azeta the Last Witch very early on. It was like episode 2 or so. That one actually was probably a little bit more fan servicey than this one though, because that one lasted longer for sure. Yeah,
we kind of just glossed over the Dragon Queen part, but like they show when she transformed her dragon into a human, she's completely naked, but they do like the hair over the boobs or stuff like that. But her design is clearly, to be voluptuous and hot. So I guess we just didn't notice it so much.
I will say I get more turned on by the food in this show than the girls. God. Even though the girls are really cute. Like, I'm not taking away anything with the girls. Yeah. I'm just saying the food is really hot.
Oh, the food gets insane in episode 2. But anyways, like that little girl goes back to her world and she like lays down in like the abandoned building on her stack of hay. And like the Dragon Queen, I guess, is also part of this same world, and she sees that something has been added to her treasure being the shop, and that's the demon girl. And so she then like flies over and basically casts this magic of protection over her because she's part of her treasure now, and nobody will ever like harm her treasure or anything like that. So it was kind of neat. Moving into episode 2. Oh man, minced meat cutlet / fried shrimp. Boy, did that fried shrimp look delicious.
Oh my god.
Did it?
Yes, it did.
Did you have any like any tempura when you were over in Japan?
So there was it was near the train station in Kyoto. If you go like just outside the train station and then down, there's like this big food like court, like shopping mall center. And there was like, there's like a chain place in there that does tempura. And yeah, I had like fried shrimp and like fried vegetables and I think fried chicken. I can't remember. I had a couple of different fried things. They were all freaking delicious and amazing.
Was the shrimp as big as it was in this one?
Yes.
Oh, really?
So good. Yeah.
That's so awesome, dude.
It's like those like prawn-sized shrimp. Oh man.
These things are like the size of like 2 of my fingers together. They're huge. But in this episode, we get introduced to a new character named Sarah Gold.
She is so beautiful.
Her character design is drop dead gorgeous.
Yeah.
The side
God.
braid.
Yeah.
Whatever reason, whenever girls put the hair to one side, no matter what style they do it in, I just love it. I don't know why.
Yeah, it always looks pretty good.
Yeah, she's got those big old amber eyes too.
Mm-hmm.
Killer body, that you would have if you were a treasure hunter constantly trekking around.
True.
And like, so she goes into like this cave and she's ambushed by like 3 goblins / orc things that she thought she took it out earlier, but apparently hadn't. She ends up kicking their butts. And then inside this mine, she also finds a secret entrance. And in this entrance, she finds the door to, I didn't say the first time, but the restaurant was called Nekoya. Nekoya, right? Yeah, because it has a little cat emblem on there, so it'd be Nekoya.
Yep.
Yeah. So she walks in, she's immediately on guard, and it's a different world. She's trying to figure it out, but is surprised to find it's just a restaurant when she passes through. Like the chef comes out and he's like, "Oh no, it's cool. Just have a seat. We'll make you some food." They have a menu and like the waitress asks if she knows how to read like Eastern religion or wording, whatever, and she does. So she's like reading the menu and like she brings her out like lemon water and it's free, and like she's like surprised by like how delicious it is, and like there's ice cubes in it, and she's just like, this is amazing, I've never seen anything like this. But on the wall they have a little chalkboard and they just have the daily special, and she gets it basically because it's cheap, but it's a minced meat cutlet. Interestingly enough, her adventures, she's been following this journal of this guy, and the guy she's been following used to visit this restaurant because he knew about the door. And ironically, that was his favorite also, was what she ended up ordering. So that was really cool. Mm-hmm. You said this show gets like the portrayal of enjoying food really, really well.
Yeah. Like
up there with like Gourmet Girl Graffiti and or Food Wars.
Yeah, like food, like it's Food Wars without like the clothes flying off. And like, if you've ever seen the Shaft show Gourmet Girl Graffiti, like the level of like detail paid attention to like the food on the plates and like how delicious they look, it's kind of that level. And the girls in that show also like orgasmed when they ate the food, like basically. So it's a little bit like that. Like they just like are loving eating this food.
Yeah. Food Wars, which is I read that manga too, which is Shokugeki no Sama. Is it's still keeping it up, but it's still great. It's been delicious food out there. But the man I was talking about earlier, the hunter guy she was following, his name was William Gold. And that's who she was following, and everything was like actually the same. But she like ends up ordering like three things of this. It's just like it's so delicious, so blown away, and it does look good. But the chef also noticed that she really enjoyed her meal, and he makes her some takeout sandwiches because that's what William used to do. And he said the first rounds on the house because he's like, I just did it out of habit. So yeah, that's when like Sarah realizes that William Gold's hidden treasure was this restaurant. And then the show does tell us that she is actually his granddaughter, I believe. Yeah. With like this flashback photo. So that's cool. And then the second half is when we get to the tempura. And it starts off with like a man named Captain Heinrich Zelemian. That's a lot of E's. Zelemian.
Oh, I think it should be like... They pronounce it Zeleman in the show.
Yeah.
But they spell it Sealman on where is this area?
But he gets met by a Western fencing master named Tatsugoro. And he's there to return a sword to him they left behind 3 years ago when he was like in charge of this fortress, and they got attacked by Mothman, but he had to leave to let the reinforcements get there in time, and he ended up coming across the restaurant. And that's where he did leave his sword, but when he's there, it's he orders the shrimp because he's from Shripe. Oh yeah, they said that. That was weird. You know why?
In his hometown, they're known as Shripe in the other world. So they're shrimp in our world. They're Shripe
and so
in his world. He's
looking at the menu and he orders the tempura because he reminds him of his hometown where they used to fish for the shrimp and whatnot. And it's crazy because when he gets it, they're like even bigger and fresher than what he had in his hometown. So that's awesome. But the captain does realize he doesn't have any money at the end of the whole thing. And so instead he offers his sword as collateral until he can return, and he like will just take no for an answer. And the chef's like, just put it on your tab, it's okay. But he won't do it. So he does it, and then like he runs out the door before the chef can tell him like it only shows up on what's the name of that day? It's Sundays.
It's a day of Saturday, basically.
Is it Saturday or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it turns out he did make it in time to warn the people of the moth attacks, and reinforcements came in on time. He was like warded his own little fortress and whatnot. And he came back to the door like 10 days later, but of course it wasn't there since it only appears every 7 days. Tatsugoro ends up telling him how the door works, and like the captain exiler returns to that Saturday, which is Satur, is what the show calls it. And it's pretty cool because like Sarah Gold is in there as well, eating again.
Yeah, she's already
and it's
back.
Oh man, I'm just so hungry watching this show. It is insane, and I love what it's doing. I could just keep watching this.
Yeah, it's a very comfy show, and it makes you hungry. You got to come with food prepared when you're watching an episode of this, or else you're going to be in trouble.
Oh, I see where your Tuesday was. It was on the next one.
Oh yeah, that's okay. I'll delete that one. Typical. So yeah, but I really like that show. One of my favorites so far this season. So
definitely. How about you tell me about this show that is not one of your favorites in 2 minutes?
I wrote very little about this. So this is called Isekai wa Smartphone to Tomo ni, or In Another World with My Smartphone, which is based on a light novel. The studio is Production Read, who've been around forever, but lately have a rough track record with shows like Rainbow Days, which I really hated. And like Onsen Yosei Hakone-chan they did recently. And I listed that one because the director, Takayuki Yanase, also directed Onsen Yosei Hakone-chan. And also a bunch of hentai. Strangely. Wow. Yeah. So episode 1 is called Awakening and Another World. And that episode title is just about as boring as this episode is. This is another, just like Knights and Magic, just like ReZero, just like Konosuba. Well, Knights and Magic, we said, had a little slight twist at least. This one there's no twist. Just the guy dies and is transported to the other world. he actually goes to like heaven first and like talks to God, and God is like, yeah, wow, you're like surprisingly like laid back about dying. And he's like, well, you know, I mean, like, I guess it hasn't really hit me yet. What's gonna happen now? And he's like, well, I'm gonna send you to this other world. And he's like, well, but do you have any wishes? I feel bad. And the kid's like, well, I kind of want to take my phone with me. Can I do that? And he's like, yeah.
What the hell?
I'll let you take your phone, and I'll put my number on there too, so you can call me anytime.
This is just like Konosuba, where he got a choice to take something with him.
It's like exactly like Konosuba, except he makes like a completely boring choice instead of a really funny choice. Like where he took taking Aqua with you, yeah. And he's just like doesn't have any of the charisma that God, what is the main character of Konosuba? Subaru? No, that's ReZero. Kazuma.
Kazuma. It's a K name.
Kazuma. Yeah, it doesn't have any of that kind of charisma.
Kazuma!
Exactly. So
can we just talk about this show instead?
About Konosuba?
Yeah.
Well, Konosuba's better in every way. Like, Konosuba has better character designs, has better OP.
It clearly knows what kind of show it is.
Yeah, like, it's better directed, like, because, like, this show doesn't even know how to transition between scenes. Like, I read that, like, apparently, like, they were rushing through a lot of material in the first episode. So they had these kind of, like, chibi sprite art, like, transition scenes. All constantly throughout the episode, like just pass time, or to tell us, like, give us a hint at like what was happening in between other scenes. So it felt like it was racing through this material, and I can understand why, because it's super boring even with the material they have there. It goes into this long, boring explanation of their boring magic system. The girls are really bland and generic. He meets two twin sisters, and it's like, oh, it's like Rem and Ram from ReZero, except they're not nearly as interesting or good looking as Rem or Ram. So yeah. And also the MC is completely OP. The god gave him boosted power for his reincarnated life. And so he has no problems or struggles or whatsoever transitioning into this new world. And then he doesn't even use the smartphone for anything interesting. You know what he uses the smartphone for? To tell them how to make ice cream.
Wait, he still has internet?
Yeah, like, and that doesn't make any sense either. He basically, like, the god allowed him to have access to the other world's internet, I think.
Like, it still has all its previous capabilities, even though it's still in another world.
But he can't interact with anybody from the other world, because that would cause, like, a paradox or something.
But if you have access to the internet, fuck.
Yeah.
Maybe if you can only observe, not add.
Yeah, he can't interact with it. He can just,
you know what this show should have done? Explained it.
Yeah, it kind of should have. Yeah. It's really dumb. It's really boring and kind of bland. It made like all the most boring decisions with every aspect of production, I would say. And if you wanted like an isekai, like Escape to Another World show, I would recommend Nights and Magic or Restaurant to Another World, both over that. So yeah. Next show, New Game Season 2. I'll just review this one quickly, because I don't think we're going to actually watch this, because you didn't watch New Game Season 1, right?
No.
So this is airing on Crunchyroll. It's based off a 4-koma manga. Studio is Doga Kobo, and the director is Yoshiyuki Fujiwara, who also directed Season 1 of New Game, and some like really good shows like Engaged to the Unidentified, Plastic Memories, and stuff like that. So yeah, this basically New Game is about a girl who goes to work at a game studio, and she goes, like, all the other people who work at the studio are women as well, and they all like work on this like game during the first season, and it kind of explores like different aspects of working in an office and game development, but it also has a lot of fan service of like different girls like butts and like them getting naked and like stuff like that. Like, there's this one girl named Ko who, like, they just love to, like, I just say, shove the camera up her butt, like, every episode. Like, they constantly show her in her underwear. Like, she's, like, the project leader, and she, like, sleeps in her underwear at the office constantly. And then she always gets yelled at, but because she works with all women, it's kind of okay, I guess. Even though it's still, like, pretty messed up. But, yeah, so there's constantly,
heavy on
like,
the fan service.
constantly heavy fan service of her. And again, in this first episode of the second season, they pick up right where they left off. Like the main character is a little lowly girl named Alba, who is supposedly 18 years old, but they constantly joke about how she looks like a middle schooler. And yeah, it's not that bad, except there's like one scene in the first series that is like really bad fan service of her in like a bathroom stall, which people remember probably. Anyway, Ko like has like one of those scenes of her in this first episode where like the camera just follows her butt as she's like waking up for like a solid like 15 seconds. And I was just like, okay, we get it. Okay, we can shoot anything else now. Anything but her butt. She's got that
booty.
Yeah, she's definitely got that booty. So anyway, all this first episode focused on was that like the company is moving forward on the next game project, and they're trying to decide what kind of game to work on. And then like they're giving all of the recurring characters like new goals for this new season, stuff like that. And so that's basically it. It's just a setup episode. I actually thought it was a really good episode to start off the second season because it had a better balance of like the fan servicey slice of life interactions between the girls and actual like work like problems that they have to figure out.
That's cool.
Yeah, sometimes in the first season it was just too much slice of life. And not enough like actual like interesting things that they have to work on. Like even the most annoying lowly character in the show, her name is Nene, or Nenechi as she's always called, like cutely. She actually had a more interesting thing in this season where she's working on her own independent game, and so she meets with like one of the programmers from the studio for lunch to tell her like, please fix the bugs in my game, it won't work. So it's kind of a cute scene. So like I hated her character in the first season, so for her to like come off better to me was a step up. So yeah, I would say if you're interested in that kind of show or like game development, or just like slice of life with cute girls, this would definitely be a show for you.
It sounds like I would actually probably enjoy it, but I would definitely go back and watch season 1 first. So
yeah, I think you probably would enjoy it.
Yeah, I probably would. So, Fastest Finger First. It's on Crunchyroll. The Japanese title is Nanamaru Sanbatsu. The source is a manga, studio TMS Entertainment. Director Masaharu Okuwaki. He has done... Is that even Japanese?
Yeah, Aishiteruze Baby. Yeah.
Okay, I was like, it almost sounds German. Lady George Spring 1983 series. This guy has been around a super long time.
Yeah, he's been around forever, but he hasn't directed very much. It's kind of strange.
He probably does other stuff, and then just every once in a while he just does this, I guess.
I assume so, yeah.
Yeah, so the first episode's called Don't You Want to Become a Quiz King?
It might be, yeah, King. I probably spelled that wrong. Yeah.
I was like, Ken? Quiz King. But really, it's just this guy. He's going to high school. He basically gets roped into... So, most people probably listening to this are familiar with the Japanese clubs. When you go and they're like doing their presentations, they're kind of really aggressive. Well, the guy who's in charge of the quiz club is like giving this presentation up on the stage, and he's like needs volunteers, and like 2 or 3 people volunteer, one of them being this female who's one of the main characters, and then he needs 3 more people, so he picks 3 more people at random, 2 females and 1 more male to make it even. Our main character gets chosen. He goes up there, and it gets like really in depth of like how you need to listen to the questions, but you need to try to figure out the end of the question before the question is completely fully stated, because most people will know these questions. Earlier on, he ran into the girl, and they had these quiz sheets that they got from earlier, and like she had marks on them like early on in sentences, and he didn't know what they were for. He figured out that's basically when she knew the answer to the questions, is when she got to a certain point into them. And like the girl's doing like amazingly well. He gets the final question by basically using her strategy, and that's the gist of the show, is him doing these. You got anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, just like in the second episode, he goes to like a quiz competition. Like another boy joins like the club. Also, there's a funny, cute scene where he meets up with Fukami, who's like the girl in the club, and she's like here's a pop quiz, and like she lifts up her leg and she's wearing like stockings and like short shorts, so she has like those Zetai Ryoki.
Absolute Territory should have been our Destiny 2 clan name. That's all I'm saying.
Oh god damn, that would have been good.
I wrote it in my notes. I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't add that till today.
I didn't see that at all. That's brilliant though.
Yeah, but like that's the question that he answers in the end is that, because she somehow quizzed him earlier and it somehow became the last question they needed to be qualified for the second round.
It's kind of funny because like the quiz competition they go to has like a bunch of otaku questions thrown in with like the normal quiz questions.
And he's more of a literature dude, so he doesn't know them. And it's funny because when she walks in, like all the guys notice the absolute zone, like it's like blinding light. They're like, ah! Yeah, they're like Indiana ridiculous. Jones opening the Ark, and like they just can't take it. It's great.
Which is how I think a lot of like high school aged boys in quiz clubs would react to seeing a pretty girl. So
yeah. It's just so bad that like stockings and skirts aren't really a thing in America like it is over in Japan.
Yeah. So I think this show is pretty decent. It reminds me a little bit of Chihaya Furu, which is like my favorite show. But it's like a show where it's like an offbeat type of competition that's usually not seen as like super like competitive or awesome, but they're trying to make it like kind of cool. I don't think it's quite as fun as Chihaya Furu because like in that show, like there's a limited amount of like cards that people have to memorize, poems that they have to memorize and remember. And it's based on speed, but you can understand the speed because people are memorizing the same poems over and over. Here, it's like, there should be more random questions, but they say that there's a lot of classic questions that get repeated over and over.
Yeah.
And you can know what the answer is by just like hearing like the first two words of the question or less. But like, wouldn't they like eventually reword some of those classic questions so like people would stop doing that?
Yeah,
like,
try to trip them up and whatnot.
Yeah,
and also,
just dumb.
Yeah, this show's enjoying so far, but as the moment it's repeating itself, like the same realization he came to in the quizzes in the first episode, they did in the second episode.
Exactly.
So if they keep doing that, there's no point in watching this show unless you enjoy everything outside of the climactic part, really.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, they're probably going to start jumping the shark and have somebody like answer something with only one word. And they immediately after I thought that, they did it. There's like some there's some rival kid who's like super talented and can answer things off of like a syllable of a word. And I was like, okay, let's stop now. It's like an okay show.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll keep my interest, but I'll probably hang with it for a bit.
Wednesdays, we've got Sakura Quest coming back. Airing on Crunchyroll. It's still the source is original again. Studio PA Works. Director Soichi Masui, who directed Chaika the Coffin Princess and Final Fantasy 15 Brotherhood.
I would like to just say that original works tend to do fairly well. I mean, Princess Principal is our other original work. And I think it's because when they do adaptations, they get to change, so much. And that goes the same with like novels and books. Novels and movies. When they adapt a novel to a movie, they have to change things. It's a different way of receiving this information. Things have to change. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it just doesn't translate too well. Sometimes it's fine. So I think that's why original works tend to be fairly successful, because it's made purely to be an anime, so there's nothing holding it back.
And the original work is only trying to sell itself. It's not trying to sell a light novel and go tell people, go read the light novel or go read the manga after this show is over. So
correct.
They typically have an ending too, which is nice. So so episode 14, The Queen Convicted. Basically, this episode has all of the girls on summer vacation. So Yoshino left after the Founders Festival and she was kind of depressed and she went back home. And back home, basically, like she meets with her parents, and also she has a little sister named Nagisa.
Yep.
And
she's got a boyfriend.
She's got a boyfriend named Akun. And so, they're like all at a festival in her hometown. And she kind of talks to like the various members of her family and also some friends from home about like her future and what she wants to do, because back in Manuyama, like Ririko and Shiori are still there, and they're thinking about like this up and coming like possible like bed and breakfast industry that they could start in Manayama because they have all these empty houses still left over.
Oh, is that what the B&B was for?
Yeah, bed and breakfast. Yeah.
Oh.
Because like they were talking about how like they don't have enough lodging, so like a bed and breakfast would be a good way.
Which was interesting to me because I either missed the point where they actually said bed and breakfast, if they did or not, because they only talked about lodging. They never once talked about the breakfast part.
Yeah, they may have never said bed and breakfast. They probably just said B&B a bunch of times. And
also, any girl in this show that is around the main girl's ages are gorgeous. Every single one. Every single one. Even her, when she went and met her friends, is when I was just like,
oh, yeah.
I need to live in this world. They're all so cool. You can't lose.
Exactly. Yeah, so Ririko and Shiori like are thinking that like, oh, you know what? Yoshino is probably going to leave after a year. And so Yoshino is like also thinking about her future. Sanai, like Leo said, went to like dinner with all her friends, and her friends are like, why don't you come back from like the rural like boonies, like, and come back to the city? Like I can hook you up with a job. Like you come right back. But she's like totally changed. She's like, no, I have a job. I'm happy with it. I want to see it through.
Yeah, I really liked how one of her friends pointed out how she's changed and she's kind of a more grounded person.
Yes, she's not.
That was awesome.
Away. Yeah,
awesome.
And then what's her name? Maki is also eating dinner with, or getting drinks with Moe, who is the actor from the actor arc, Maki's little acting arc. And Moe is like, you should come audition with me. Like, I think it would be good for you. You never know what'll happen until you try. So that's like a recurring thing that Maki might return to acting, but still, she still has some unfinished business back in Manayama too, I think. And so yeah, Yoshino like has discussions with her mother about like, why did you choose to live in like a rural town like this? By the way, her town that she's from like is this beautiful seaside town. Like it's really cool looking. And her mom's just like, yeah, well, one, your dad was here, and two, like it just seemed like a nice place where I could imagine myself settling down. And also like Yoshino's sister is very into the idea of just like taking this job that her mom had like proposed for her, which is just like to work in some like business in their little rural town. And she just would be totally happy marrying her boyfriend and then staying there forever. But
yeah, just being super normal and regular, and that like blows Yoshino's mind.
Yeah. And the other thing that makes Yoshino happy is her parents were like, hey, maybe we'll come visit you in Manoyama one of these days. And we'll bring your sister and Akun too, and we can all see what it's like over there.
Well, so, they visited once when they were a long time ago.
Yeah, when they took the little picture of her on the throne.
Yeah, her sister wasn't even born yet, they speculate. But exactly. I really liked how Yoshino was like starting to get like really sympathetic about her hometown because it was struggling like Manoyama is a little bit.
Yes, exactly.
So I thought that was just really cool. Like she was basically taking what she learned from Manoyama and learning how to view her hometown in the same eyes as she. I like how
Yoshino. Oh yeah, I like how Yoshino was telling her sister like, "Oh, nothing's changed," and Nagisa's like, "No, we have like, air conditioning in the elementary school now." I was like, "Whoa, wow,
wow." Which is awesome, I guess.
At the end of the episode, Shiori and Ririko are going forward with their bed and breakfast proposal. And they go to check on like which houses that are empty might be suitable. And they run into like a group of Spanish tourists who are wearing t-shirts that in the next episode, they translate them as saying, well, we come in peach. Like the peach, the fruit. And earlier in this episode, though, they were walking around on the street and I thought it was translated as safe birth. I thought I saw that pop up.
It did say safe birth. And then for whatever reason, at the end of the episode, it was we come in peach.
Yeah, that was strange. I don't know what happened there.
I don't know.
But the second episode is all about like all the girls come back from their vacation. And they come back and there's a group of weird Spanish guys are there they terrified Ririko and Shiori in the last episode because they didn't know how to communicate with them. And they came up to them and they were all just saying like, hola, ¿cómo está? Like, they just scared the crap out of them. And so apparently they're a group of UFO enthusiasts who came because they wanted to see the Chupacabra.
UMA enthusiasts,
yeah. And so the guys from the singles club also are trying to speak English to some of like the women in this Spanish
It's
group.
Hilarious.
It's really funny. They're like,
It's
this
so
is
broken.
sushi.
It's so broken, but that's why it's so funny.
They're like, oh yes, teppanyaki. No, teppanyaki, not good. Sushi good. It's like, oh my
And they're
God.
Spanish women, so I don't, whatever.
It's just like all broken English. It's really funny. All of the girls are chilling out and like having snacks and drinks together, and like Sanai and Maki pass out on the couch on top of each other, which is kind of cute. And Shiori is passed out at the table, and then like that leaves Ririko and Yoshi to talk about like what it means to have a place to return to, because Yoshi was talking about how she might return to her hometown.
Yeah, and Ririko has only been in this one town.
Yeah, she's never left, and she's never thought about leaving.
Yeah, so that's an odd thing to think about for her.
Yes. The girls talk about how, like, because they have this crazy group of Spaniards in town, it's a good test run for inbound, like, people. Like, inbounds are, like, people, like, foreigners who, like, the residents of a town have to deal with and have to cater to if you're going to have, like, a hospitality industry. So if, like, B&Bs were to come to the town, they would have to have, like, a way for these people to communicate with the townspeople and, like, get along. Also, there's this event coming up in the town called the Drying, where they're going to dry out like the local pond, Sakura Pond.
Yep.
And some UFO enthusiasts are coming besides the Spanish crew.
Uma.
Yeah, Uma, UFO, either or. And they like so.
Well, Uma encompasses everything.
What does Uma even stand for, though, in Japanese? I don't know.
Ah, darn it! I don't know. Ririko has brought this up.
Unidentified monsters, like, yeah, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're coming because like if they drain the pond, like some of them think that the chupacabra is like lives in the water, or maybe it's just like a kappa fish or whatever.
Yeah.
And so the girls need to find a way to house all these visitors, and so they decide to clean up a big empty house. They can't charge money for it because of like Japanese hospitality laws that they would have to abide by, and they can't they can't abide by those laws on short notice. And also I thought it was kind of weird, like the girls go to clean the house and then randomly one of the Spanish women comes to help with them clean the house. She's like, oh, I'm Spanish, I'll help clean. That's not what she says.
Well, she was also the one that requested the a new residence for the women to sleep at.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, so that's probably why she came to help, because it was also part of her. Yeah, they say her name. Ririko's like, oh yeah, so and so requested this, and then yeah, she showed up to help them clean also. So that was cool.
I thought they were stereotyping like a Spanish woman being a house cleaner, and I was like, oh God, no.
No, that's not what they did.
Okay, good. Thank God. I'm glad you cleared that up for me. On the way back, the Spanish woman shows Ririko like a bunch of pictures she's taken on her travels around the world. And that gets Ririko like really thinking about like maybe she should leave at some point. And she even asks her aunt Oribe, like, have you ever thought about leaving Monoyama? And she's like, no, I never have. And Ririko's like, yeah, me neither. So she's like, she still doesn't know what to think. And anyway, at the end of the episode, Kadata sees something in the pond at nighttime. And he like jumps in and swims over to try and get it or like hide it or something. And the Yuma crew see this happening because they have surveillance cameras up like all around the lake. And even though they're inside eating dinner, like one of them looks at like the surveillance cam on the laptop and sees that like there's splashing in the lake. So then they all go try to save Kadata, and like
it's hilarious how like military they are about it too.
Yeah,
like
they have
the dude sees it and he yells something and everybody suddenly becomes super serious and like runs out with like all their devices and everything. I was like, whoa.
It's like, vámonos muchachos. Like it's just, they all hit like roll
Andale.
And it's funny because like Kindaiichi is trying to like impress one of like the Spanish women, so he like jumps into the lake to try and swim out to Kadata when they realize it's him. But then also like Sandal-san like takes like a bicycle tire and throws it like 300 feet or just like a frisbee or something, and it like magically gets right to Kadata and he's able to like tread water then more easily. And before Kindaichi can even reach him, he gets picked up by a boat full of Spanish guys. So like Kindaichi didn't impress anybody really. So but anyway, Kadata is like in the hospital and it's unclear what he saw. But then at the end of the episode, somebody calls Oribe and tells her like what happened, and then says like the thing from 50 years ago is back. And she's like, "Oh, don't tell me that." And then Kadata in the middle of the night like leaves the hospital and he's driving back to the pond, and he says, "I can't let anybody know about it," or something. And so it's clearly some like embarrassing thing that he wants to cover up.
Yeah, like a failed thing from when he was previously trying to, drum interest back into the town.
He might have been a kid back then, or like a younger man at least. Yeah.
I don't know. There was an interesting scene earlier where he was talking with the guy who makes all the gadgets.
Yes.
And like the gadget guy's like, it's like falling apart or something by now, obviously, but apparently not.
Yeah. All right, so why don't you move on and take the next episode?
Oh, God. Hajimete no Gal. It's on Crunchyroll. English title is My First Girlfriend is a Gal. And I was initially interested in this show. Oh, that changed really quick. This is like up there with the 3P show. Whew.
Yeah.
Source is a manga. Studio Naz. Do you know anything they've done in AZ?
I don't think so. I'll look it up while you talk about it.
All right. The director is Hiroki Furukawa. He has done Masao Gakuen HXH, Okusama ga Seito Koicho, and Yuki Ogawa. Kind of nothing of note, really.
So Studio Naz has done like Dramatical Murder and like Hamatora, the animation and stuff like that. That's about it.
Okay, well, that's two completely different things.
Yeah.
And then three completely different things when we throw this in there.
Yes.
So Bcom's only thing he has to want to throw in the show is this show sucks.
It really does. And for reasons that'll become clear.
So episode 1 is titled My First Time Begging for It. Oh, man. So let me list the reasons why we will not be reviewing this show. At 3 minutes and 10 seconds in, and one of the main character's friends comments about wondering where you can meet some cute elementary school girls. It's a show called 3 Piece or something like that. Just go watch that.
Yeah, that's where you can meet them. Yeah. Online. If you post your music online, that's the way.
Oh my God. And then at the 3 minute 50 second mark, we are introduced to a character with ginormous breasts and the body of an elementary schooler. His friends freak out about this because she's like a little kid and they think it's better that way.
Also, yeah, her character design is just like a garbage fire. Like
always bad.
Her whole top half is just breasts. Like
she's like 4'8" with E's, maybe F's.
It just makes no sense. It's so weird.
Yeah, then at the 9 minute 26 second mark, one of his friends comments, "It would be great if there was a grade school girl like the Gal girl." Oh my God. Yeah, and this is really sad because I actually thought the rest of it after that was really interesting. I liked the dynamic between the Gal girl and the guy. I thought that was cool and interesting.
It wasn't that bad. Like, yeah, he was kind of like begging to be with her. Like, all he cares about is having sex, basically. And she realizes that he's kind of like a scummy guy, but like she's still kind of into him. She's like a Gyaru girl or whatever.
Yeah, Gal, whatever.
And like, yeah, this is a very ecchi show, by the way. Like, there's a lot of like censoring of like her underwear.
Oh, actually, there was an uncensored version posted the day after, and I watched that instead.
Oh, was there really? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just full on panty with like the camel toe the size of a hot dog bun.
Yeah, it's like I saw a picture of the uncensored like camel toe, and I was like, that is really puffy. Like
that's that. If you were to see that, you should be concerned,
like,
because
to the hospital. Like,
they have an infection of some sort that needs to be taken care of, most likely.
Oh my God.
But yeah, that's all we're going to talk about that show. It's not even worth going into.
It's not. Yeah. So okay, last show on Wednesdays is Yokoso Jitsuryoku Shijo Shuji no Kyoshitsu E, or Classroom of the Elite, which is on Crunchyroll. The source is a light novel. The studio is Lerche. And the director, it's co-directed by Seiji Kishi, who directed one great show called Tsukiga Kure.
God, no.
Among other things, called Angel Beats, Assassination Classroom.
In our second episode, I use a show to show why Tsukiga Kure is so bad. Like, I couldn't help but make comparisons.
Mm-hmm.
But
I know what
keep
you're talking
going.
about. Yeah. And
then, but he did do Angel Beats.
And then the co-director is Hiroyuki Hashimoto, who directed Is the Order a Rabbit and Magical Girl Raising Project, which I
really like that show.
Yeah, I still haven't watched that show.
It's really, really interesting, and it does dark shit. So if you like that stuff, it's well worth a watch.
Well, this show might be a little bit dark too, but it starts off fairly plain. Basically, episode 1 is called "What is Evil? Whatever springs from weakness," which is a quote from Friedrich Nietzsche, which is kind of a pretentious quote to start off with for an anime, but whatever. The basic setup is that there's an elite school on an island just off of Tokyo called like the Tokyo Metropolitan Advanced High School that is only for like the best of the best students. And it's like opened by the Japanese government, and it's meant to nurture like great business and political leaders and stuff. And then like there's an opening scene where like the school kids are on a bus, and like they're on a bus headed to school, and like there's an old woman who gets on the bus, and there's no seats for her to sit, and she like clearly can barely stand. And one of the girls, whose name we find out later is Kikyu, asks like, will anybody like give up their seat for this woman? And like there's this blonde guy who's in their class who's like, no, because I believe in equality, so no, I was here first, so she can stand. Like, and like nobody else on the bus, like none of the other students will give up their seat, except for, and then like eventually like one like middle-aged woman gives up her seat to the old lady. And I was just like, wow, so like all of these characters are assholes basically. So the main character is like this kind of really laid-back, cynical guy who speaks in a very monotone voice. His name is Kiyotaka Ayanokoji. And on the bus, he was sitting next to a dark-haired girl named Suzune Horikita. And her older brother, we find out later, is the student council president of this school. She's kind of bitchy and standoffish, and like she doesn't really want to talk to anybody, including Kiyotaka. So like once the students arrive at school, they go to class, and they the teacher, like the homeroom teacher, who is this like really hot woman with like huge cleavage.
I have not seen the show. I do plan on watching it, so sell me.
Basically, like the way it works out is that first of all, before she shows up, all the students like start introducing themselves to each other. And the main character is having like an inner monologue about each student. He's like, oh, that one will probably be popular with like the guys and the girls. Or like, oh, that guy will be the class leader. Like he's kind of like a mix between Kyon from Haruhi Suzumiya and Hachiman from Oregairu. Like a laid back, like cynical guy who feels like he knows everything. So yeah, then like the homeroom teacher shows up, and she's like, okay, here's the deal. I'm your homeroom teacher for the next 3 years. And you will have limited ability to leave the campus or contact the outside world. But while you're here, we'll provide you with everything you need, and we're going to give you like a stipend to live off of. Everything on this school can be bought based on a point system. And at the beginning of each month, we will give you your allotted points. And for this month, you get 100,000 points to start. And each point is like 1 yen. So that's basically like giving each student like $888 for the month based on today's exchange rate. So Kiyotaka and Suzune are like really stingy with their money. Like they go to a convenience store, and like Kiyotaka's like just buying some necessities, and he's asking Suzune like, hey, why are you buying like really cheap soap and really cheap shampoo? And she's like, hey, it's all I need. I don't need anything else. He's like, well, you have all this money. You could buy like more expensive stuff. But she's like, no, I don't need to. It's clearly setting up that like all the rest of their classmates start splurging and spending all their money and going to like movies and spending it on food and buying all this stuff. And so they like are like running down all their points because they expect to get another 100,000 points at the beginning of the next month. And also in class, they're like really slacking off because their teacher like kind of lets them do whatever they want. Like they can just like sleep in class. A bunch of them start like not even showing up to class anymore. Others just like act really like assholes and stuff. So anyway, a month goes by of all this stuff. The one other interesting thing that happens in the first month is that Kikyu, the nice girl from the bus who tried to get like a seat for the old lady, she befriends the main character, and she's like really intensely interested in making friends with everybody. So she says she got turned down by Suzune, and she realized that like the main character is the only one who Suzune ever talks to. So she's like, you need to help me make friends with her. So he agrees to do it because she's really cute, and she like kind of flirted with him to get him to do it. And so he asks Suzune to go to like a cafe with him, and it turns out like it was all a setup. She figures it out that it was a setup to like get her in the same room as Kikyu, and she's like, Kikyu was like, please be my friend, and she's like, every word you say disgusts me, like leave me alone. And like it just doesn't work out between them, obviously. So anyway, at the end of the episode, the big twist, which you could probably see coming, is that all the students who've been like jerking off and like not doing anything in class,
like clearly jerking off,
not jerking off. Well, maybe. I mean, they probably were. I mean, they weren't doing anything else in class. So the teacher's like, okay, like everybody, like you can see you got your allotted money for the month. And it turns out that nobody in the class got any money, because what it is a collective grading system where the whole class has to succeed, or else none of them get any money. And since like just some of them were all slacking off and being assholes, everybody gets punished.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. And then like all of the people who have money now who are being stingy are now super valuable. Like because they like there's a whole bunch of people in the class who have no money, and they're like, how the hell are we going to survive this month? So it like the people who kept their money close to the vest are now very important. So yeah, that's all I saw. I've only seen the first episode. The second episode has yet to air when we're recording, but I've seen a lot of people compare this to Origairu, and I can kind of see the comparison where Suzune is a lot like Yukino, who's like kind of like icy and standoffish, and Kikyo is sort of similar to Yui in that she's like bubbly and wants to be friends, but also I got the sense that Kikyo, it has some like ulterior motives for so aggressively trying to make friends with everybody. Like I don't think she's just a really good person. I think like she might be a little bit evil, or she might have a plan for when she's friends with everybody to like take over. But I don't know, it's hard to read from the first episode though. But I'm kind of intrigued by this one. I'm definitely going to keep watching because I like shows that are set in high schools that are kind of dystopian and cynical like that.
Yeah, and I'm just really interested how this turns out, because just the concept of how the whole classroom works with the money situation is really interesting.
It is pretty interesting.
And it's weird because the description when I read the show originally does not say anything about that.
Nope, definitely not.
So yeah, like, so you're sitting here reading this off, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, are we thinking about the same show?
Just you could never trust those like synopses on My Anime List and stuff. They're so often like totally inaccurate. Like, yeah.
So that looks like the end. Do you want to take us out?
Yeah. So that was the first half of our spring 2017 first impressions. You can come back for the second half probably in a week from now. And if you want to find us before then, we have all our podcasts and videos up on YouTube and iTunes and Google Play. Please drop us a 5-star review if you like what you heard on iTunes. And that's about it. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Later, everybody.